what to do. Sure.
Call the Board of Aldermen meeting to order for the City of Warrenton for Tuesday, July 2nd, 2013. Would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Alderman Dreyer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is item 3, approval of minutes. 3A, budget work session minutes from June 11, 2013.
Motion for approval of budget minutes from June 11, 2013.
A motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Clark, is that right?
Second.
To approve the budget work session minutes from June 13, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly is absent. Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. On item 3B, executive session minutes from budget work session minutes, June 11, 2013.
Make a motion to approve the executive session minutes for the budget work session on June 11, 2013.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve the executive session minutes from budget work session of June 11, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. Item 3C, regular board meeting minutes of June 18, 2013.
Make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from June 18th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dreyer, seconded by Alderman Flake to approve the regular board meeting minutes of June 18, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. At this time, we open the floor up to hear from the public, that if anyone would like to address the Board of Aldermen, do so at this time. Ask that you keep your remarks civil and limit them to 5 minutes or less. If you have some remarks, please come to the podium and state your name at this time.
Mr. Mayor, Board, Alderman, my name is Stan Shelton, and the reason I've come to talk or ask, as elected officials, one thing you would refrain to do is to have the appearance of wrongdoing. I think as elected officials, that's one thing you would strive heavily to do. And why I bring this up is, I don't know how many of you ever go to Missouri CaseNet, and you can put in somebody's name and you can see what they've been sued for, traffic tickets, whatever is usually there. Back in 2010, our former mayor had used the services of the city attorney for a traffic ticket. No big deal. Except for, to me, it could give you the appearance of wrongdoing. To have the city attorney work for the elected official, and you guys are in charge of salary for the city attorney, could be the appearance of wrongdoing. Didn't say there was anything going on, anything. It's just the appearance. I have a friend that's a mayor. He said they don't have a ordinance per se, but the city attorney will not do business with them or the immediate family. And I think that's something maybe you need to consider, to look at, to do, is refrain from looking at it as wrongdoing. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, just something to think about. And that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Anybody have a comment that you want to rebuttal?
I don't know if Mr. Gravel would like to address that or has any thoughts on that situation.
Well, probably better he doesn't, since we're here to listen from the public. I would be more interested if a board member wanted to rebuttal that. I think the only thing I would tell you, Mr. Shelton, that, I mean, you know that Mr. Gravel's a private contractor to the city, and we don't have a lot of, I mean, we can't tell him who he can represent and who he can't. I understand what you're saying, the perception to the public is probably be better if he didn't. So, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, I guess the only thing that I would like to address is, I would like to ask if that Mr. Gravel is an attorney. I don't know the ethics that he is bound by, but I guess my question will be is if that is an ethical violation of if he's violated his own code of ethics.
Yeah.
Can I respond?
Pardon me?
Can I respond to?
If you would like to.
Mr. Shelton, number one, to state that you're not making any statement, you are making a statement with regards to a conflict of interest or an ethical issue, okay? You can say that you're not, but you absolutely are, okay? And I take those statements very serious, because as an attorney, all I have is my reputation. And I will tell you that there was no raise that was ever given as a result of a traffic ticket that Mayor Costello got. It was a ticket that he received in Warren County and asked me to take care of for him. And just like any other ordinary citizen would ask me to take care of a ticket. There is no violation of any ethical canons. In fact, when I've had any questions of any ethical issues before, I've brought that to the board and asked the Board of Aldermen in the past if they would like me to represent him. I take those allegations very serious, even the implications very serious. There was no violation. There was no violation of my canons as an attorney, and it is on case and it is a public record, and it's obviously something anybody can look at. You can ask Mike Wright's office, who is the prosecutor on that case, if there was any violation or any conflict of interest. You can even ask Mayor Costello if there was any improper conflict of interest or improper dealings on that particular case. And I would encourage you to do so, Mr. Shelton.
Mr. Mayor, can I respond?
Well, we're doing what I didn't want to do, is get into a rebuttal here. And so I would rather you not respond back to that. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
At this hearing, anyone else from the public want to address the board? All right, not hearing anyone else, then I'm going to move on to the Board of Aldermen, give them the same courtesy that if any board members would like to address the audience, please do so at this time. Pretty quiet on the board? Okay. Not hearing from any of the board. I'm going to move on down to number 6, Mayor's Report. I have just a couple things I want to share with the public and share with the board. One thing I want to mention, the Missouri Municipal League is having their annual conference September 15th through the 18th. If any of the board members might be interested in attending that conference, I urge you to let Melody know by Friday. Is that a safe statement, Melody? Because the hotel rooms and stuff need to be booked pretty early and things fills up pretty fast. It's this year it's at Branson, Missouri. The other thing I wanted to mention, I got a letter from the governor's office about our application for the Enhanced Enterprise Zone designation. Basically it says, Dear Mayor Dyer, I'm pleased to announce that your application to establish an enhanced enterprise zone within the county of Warren has been approved. As a result, your community will be able to utilize this new program to support its economic development efforts. The Enhanced Enterprise Zone program was enacted pursuant to Section 135.950-135.973. We're all hoping and assuming that was going to pass and be under the deadline, and it made it very easily. So, good news on that. The only other thing that I have I want to share with the board, and I talked with our recreation chairman about this. I'm somewhat concerned about the farmers market issue. For some reason, we can't get that market up and running. I stopped by last Saturday. We had one vendor there. Actually saw no customers in my short time there. I think we need to take a closer look at this and see what we want to do. Do we want to continue on with this? Maybe give it a couple more weeks and see if, as the crops and vegetables start coming in, maybe it will pick back up. But if it doesn't, I think we need to give strong consideration to maybe spending our time and money better on other projects. So just wanted to share that with you. And that's all I have. I'm ready for item 7. It says sewer backup due to May 30th storm. And the first item on the agenda is A, 1007 Warren Avenue, Kathy Cunningham. Would you like to address the board?
Yes, sir. I certainly would. Probably my fault, but I'd like to correct the date. It was actually on the evening of the 31st of May, and I may have put the 30th on there.
I'm going to ask you to maybe move that microphone down so I can hear you.
It's probably my fault. The date was the 31st of May, not the 30th.
Not the 30th? Okay.
But my name is Kathy Cunningham, and I own the sister cellar here in Warrenton. I've been a real estate agent for 33 years. 23 of them are right here in Warrenton. My business interests are here, and my investments are here. On the evening of the 31st, I received a text from my renter at 1007 Warren with pictures showing me the sewer coming from the stool, the shower, and the drain in the home that they rented. Because this is a single mother of 3, I did try to call City Hall, hoping to get an emergency contact number, but it went unanswered. Guy Givers, I believe, asked why I did not call 911, because he would have sent someone to look at it. Even before he looked at the property at that time, he said I was to install a backflow device at my expense, already deciding it was not this department's fault. After my talk with Mr. Givers on Monday, he did go to look at the damage. 2 days after the feces, tampons, and what appeared to be condoms were cleaned, the sewer-soaked carpet removed, and the drywall cut out, and then says it was not sewer, it was stormwater, an act of God. I did enclose in a packet the definition legally of act of God for you guys to review. Currently this affects 4 homes along Warren. Mrs. Williams at 920, Mrs. Whitaker at 918, Mrs. Matterson at 101 Warren, and mine at 1007 Warren. As the statements indicated, in 2009, you guys, the city, installed 4 devices on the east lower side of that subdivision, backflow devices. Those people had complained for nearly 10 years of water and species and etc. in their basements. You finally relented and did that. Fixed them. But as a result, since 2009, these 4 homes evidently have been getting flooded. I purchased my home, it was foreclosure. I had no seller's disclosure, no way of knowing it had ever flooded at any time. Due diligence, I asked a few of the neighbors, and they told me that the subdivision had problems, and these devices were installed. I assumed they were installed in this one too. They evidently were not, and I found that out on the 31st. I guess we're trying to plead for the city to do what's right, fix these homes, and fix the problem. The pictures show that the water problem there is severe. The water got up to the fence there on Canterbury that day. And I asked Mrs. Williams why she didn't take pictures of 2013's rain. And the rain that we enclosed in the packet was 2009. Her statement was clear. She tried in 2009 to get help, and the city ignored her. They did not care. They told her to install a backflow device at her expense. She's a single woman on a fixed income. She can't afford to do that. And so she lives with this every time it rains. I think it's time that the city paid attention to the homeowners and to the fact that there's a problem there. It's simple. Warrenton Acres is here. Cedar Hills is here. Where does the water go? It needs to be addressed, gentlemen, or we're going to even lose a child in this kind of rain. In those pictures you can see there's a car trying to get through there. Adults drive cars. Children don't. If the adult's not smart enough not to go through that, no child is either. Thank you for listening to me.
Let me see if any of the board members have any questions for Mrs. Cunningham. Does anybody want to address any of the issues there? And I'm getting from what you just told me, this is a rental dwelling?
Mine's a rental, but that doesn't mean they all are.
No, I understand that. And do you have this house does not have a backflow preventer on
It
it?
does today.
Pardon me?
It does today.
Today? Okay.
But that doesn't change the fact, I don't think every homeowner should be responsible for installing something that is really the city's job. Protecting us as residents is the city's job. They're to provide fire, police, protection from criminals, streets. We pay taxes for that.
Yeah.
What we don't pay taxes for is for the city to ignore an ongoing problem that has truly been going on for a long time. It is our understanding when that subdivision was built by Jerry Rust, he warned the city, he says, at that time, that when the developing continued, that is a low spot, that they were going to flood in some manner. We're sitting there, gentlemen, and it needs to be addressed.
Okay.
For the safety of these homes. What do you think the value of my home is at this moment?
Probably not very high.
That's another thing. You know, it's the city's job to protect our home values, not watch them deflate one at a time, because nothing's being done for this. It's unfair to put this back onto the homeowners. Perhaps I can afford it, but that's not the issue. There's others, such as Ms. Williams, Ms. Whitaker, they said they cannot afford the backflow device. It was $820.
Now, I'm sorry, my understanding was that the city reimburses half of that?
They said zero. Your insurance company said zero.
They told me no.
Act of God.
On
No,
the
we're talking
damages,
about-
I'm talking about on the backflow preventers. My understanding was that does the city not reimburse portions of the installation of backflow?
There's a policy that says the city will reimburse up to $1,000 as half of the preventer installation.
And may I ask where that money comes from?
It comes out of the city's water and sewer fund.
Okay. Mr. Givers, is that his name? Guy?
Mr.
He said we would have to install them at our expense. He offered no compensation whatsoever.
I think what we're getting at, sometimes people go ahead and install the backflow preventers, and they install them improperly or in the wrong place. And if that would be the case, I'm sure there would be no reimbursement. And it causes us problems when we get ready to run our cameras and stuff. We can't get the cameras back out if they're installed in the wrong place.
If we're told by your city public works director to install it ourselves at our expense, what am I supposed to do? Wait for the next rain, the next flood into my home? I have a single mom with 3 children in that home. One is severely handicapped. The other is 10 years old. Her biggest concern is if her bedroom upstairs was going to flood. Now, that's not fair. Whether that's a rental or not, it's not even the issue. That's how these people are going to be living. Evidently, you stopped up 4 more are getting in trouble. We stop these up, there's going to be more getting in trouble. Something is wrong, and the engineers need to look at this situation seriously. As far as the reimbursement, I would appreciate some reimbursement.
Kathy,
And I think I'm owed that.
I drove through that neighborhood the other day, and the letters that we got in our packet, trying to make sense of where everybody was. The 4, I'm not good with numbers, I'm good with names.
That's all right.
The Deal House, I believe, is one of them that has a backflow preventer.
They were to the left.
Is it those 4
Yeah.
houses that are on her side of the street, to your knowledge, that have the backflow preventers?
Mhm.
Okay.
And they were installed in 2009.
Can I say something? Those was installed in 2009.
Okay.
When the 2009 flash flood came and the sewage backed up in our houses, it was after those flow devices were put in.
Okay.
Okay, that was the first time we
Hold on, you're gonna have to wait your turn so that we know who, I'm just trying to get a grasp on
What they're
where
saying,
those were.
Mrs. Whitaker's lived there since, her mother owned the house before she did in 1985. Never got water until 2009.
And then 920 and 918,
That's their home.
I know where yours is on the corner, then Manson's is next door to yours, and then where is 920 and 918 in
Almost
relation?
across the street from Madison's.
The storm drain is in my backyard next to Canterbury. I'm on
Okay.
the corner.
Okay. That's all the question.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
nope.
What we're really asking the city to do is fix it, reimburse us for the damages, but more important, I'd like to see it fixed for the entire neighborhood, because water does what water does, and it will bring the sewer with it. And it will not stop until it's fixed. It will travel from one house to another. And we're not talking about a little bit of water, 7 inches.
Thank you.
Sewage on top of it.
I'm ready for 101 Warren Avenue.
Yeah, I'm
Casey
Casey Madsen. Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Mayor, you had asked, or said that why did we put those backflow devices in? It happened on the 31st. You know, we weren't going to wait for another storm to happen again so that it would continue to happen. You know, Guy Gilbert said, you know, the insurance company wasn't going to do anything. It wasn't the city of Warrenton's fault. You know, like, you have all my paperwork. He told me I knew more than he did. You know, I mean, we had to get them installed unless we wanted them to happen again. So, I mean, I don't want to hear, oh, well, now there's a problem because the city didn't install them. You know, we were told the city wasn't going to install them. You know, the night that it happened, we also have a ranch north of Jonesburg, and it has been hit in 18 years by tornadoes. So we run out there, and we're almost there, and my renter texts me a picture, and he says, I've got 8 inches of water in the basement, and it's still rising. And I said, we'll be right there. So we're at their house till 10 o'clock at night. You know, both of us on the phones with our insurance companies. His insurance company says, you know, well, your renter's insurance doesn't cover it because it's the city of Warrenton sewer. My insurance company said it's the city of Warrenton sewer. It's not like there was damage from our pipes. It was sewer coming in the basement through the drains. There was no damage in our house. It was coming in from the outside. You know, I mean, like it says in the letter, there were 5 of us that worked 12 hours on Saturday just cleaning it up. You know, our renters lost their furniture. You know, ServPro was there giving us bids of the damage, and they didn't show up till 1 o'clock the next afternoon. I mean, this could have been prevented. It's been an issue for years. I submitted a letter from Bob, who lives on the corner. He was the first one to have the backflow device put in '09, and then the 3 houses next to him. And he said, I know Donna Deal still gets a little bit of sewage in her basement. Well, she has 5 kids. So they apparently can't go 3 hours or however length of that storm until the water's, you know, recedes. You know, but Bob doesn't use any water while there's a storm because he knows if he does, it's going to come right back into his house. If you've got that much sewer water pushing on those drains, and then you've got a backflow device, it can't go anywhere. But, I mean, if the city has known about this, Bob's been there 28 years. His house is flooded 3 times, and one time up to 3 feet. You know, why is the city not doing something about it? And like Kathy said, you know, we just bought that home in September as a foreclosure. No disclosures for us either. You know, it's been an issue. The city's been aware of the issue, and the city hasn't done anything about it. Bob said his wife showed up to 25, 30 alderman meetings, and finally you guys got tired, not you guys, but whoever was on the board at the time, got tired of listening to him, so they put backflow devices in there, you know, in her house. It shouldn't come to that.
I sympathize with you. I also have rental property, and over the years, over the past 30 years, I've probably dug up several sewers or had several sewers dug up that were on my property. And I hate to tell you this, but probably 90% of those, the problem was my problem and not, you know, not the city. So So I guess my question to you is, a sewer is an enclosed system. Where is, and how is this, the sewer water, how is it getting in there? I mean, what's causing it to back up in your property?
The pictures that you got, I'm Casey's husband, the pictures you got clearly showed.
Would you come up to the microphone?
The pictures that we submitted to you clearly show the water coming up through the sewer pipe.
Yes, and I
yes, we are
understand
the
that.
homeowners, but it's clear that the city has put backflow preventers in all of these other homes, and it's clearly not our problem as a homeowner. This is the city's water, and the water is being mixed with drain water into a supposedly sealed sewer system.
But that's
Well, it doesn't
my,
work that way.
that's my question. Where and how is that happening?
Well, I think that's the crux of the issue here. I mean, there should not be stormwater in the sewer system, so you have an infiltration issue. So the question is, have we tried to identify the infiltration issue? And I mean, because we went, and I was sitting on the board back then, no one ever showed up for 30 meetings complaining, so just for the record. As I was here, the homeowners that came, we addressed their issues. We talked to them, we addressed their issues. That's how the project got started. It was never taken on as a comprehensive problem. It was just addressing the issues of the people who were there. So the question in my mind is, we can sit here and talk about this for a long time, but let's talk about solutions, because that's really what this is about. So I guess the question is, would you have a feel as to where infiltration's coming from? I know in some of the residences, they had stormwater coming off their roof. The drain pipe used to go from the stormwater directly into the sewer, because way back then, they were built in such a way that was legal. Now it's not legal. We went through a process of having people disconnect their roofs so the stormwater wouldn't come into the system. What's the situation out there? Do you know?
We had a sewer main that was off of Vashel, which all runs down toward that area. When the water ran off from Cool Street and came down, it would hit the ditch, it would disappear. That was going in the sewer main. This was earlier in the year. We repaired that and fixed that, and along the creek line and then down through the back farther into the woods, we raised 11 manholes to get them up above grade. But a lot of the I&I would have to be cambered and looked at, which is up for a fiscal year coming up.
Yeah, because what you raised, though, is past these homes. It's farther to the east.
Yeah, but it's still bottlenecks down farther, causing it not to be able to flow and keep going. We're filling the main with rainwater coming from the gutters and I&I.
Because if we don't get I&I fixed, this will go on for quite a while. Because like you said, you'll do a backflow preventer in one home, and the next home, they'll just keep moving up the road. So the real question is, how do you keep stormwater out of the sewer system?
We need to locate the I&I with our sewer camera and start repairing what we can repair, and then contract out what we can't repair. And that's coming up in the fiscal year.
Well, is the I&I sewer camera work to be done by the city, or is it being contracted out?
It can be done by the city.
But if this happened in '09, why wasn't this addressed then?
Well, because it wasn't looked at. I mean, that whole underlying subdivision has had issues for years. You know, at one time, the homes that are by the Lagoon Park would have water issues because of stormwater. We made improvements so the stormwater went back into those homes. We had property owners come, you know, because when I first saw these numbers, I thought it was on the east side, because those property owners came, we tried to address their issue, and we never took the project on as a comprehensive project. That's why. So maybe we're at the point where we have to look at it as a more comprehensive project, and we have to make an effort to see if we can fix the infiltration, because I suspect once the infiltration issue goes away, the problem goes away.
Doesn't it too, though, if we're mixing stormwater with sewer water, and maybe I'm naive,
Right.
but when we mix stormwater with sewer water, and sewer water then mixes with the stormwater, doesn't it create quite a public hazard?
We're not mixing stormwater.
Oh, we are, yeah, because it's in my basement.
It doesn't mix, absolutely, but we're not mixing. That infiltration is not unique to the city of Warrenton. It's not, I think every community deals with that. I'm not saying that it's not an issue, but I think it's an issue that the city is well aware of and has been working diligently towards getting to. Unfortunately, that infiltration, especially when you have a situation of 4.5 inches of rain or 4.25 inches of rain, it exacerbates the problem that's already there.
Right, but that's typical of this area. We get those kinds of rains, and the city has already done things to keep it out of some of the homeowners, but not ours. We own 9 homes in town too.
Sure.
We pay taxes on all of those homes, we pay sewers on all of those homes.
We recognize that.
Absolutely.
And we just want, I mean, we had to clean up feces for 13 hours because the city refused to put in a backflow device. I mean,
Well,
When did we refuse?
The
We didn't
city
refuse.
Have they?
Have
They
we
may not.
I think they have it this way.
Was there a request to put in a backflow, and the city said, no, we're not going to? I understand that you all bought these homes without, and they don't have a backflow preventer,
Correct.
and that there wasn't a disclosure.
Correct.
And I don't mean for this, I bought my house as a foreclosure, and there was no disclosure. And I've been lucky. I asked around, and I haven't had an issue like this. But that is one of the downfalls of buying without a disclosure. And again, I think that unfortunately, you're not brought up to speed, or you haven't been informed that there is a way to at least be partially reimbursed for the installation of the backflow preventer.
You know, but I went through, you know, I filled out the little form online that night. The next morning, I filled out the email the guy givers. You know, then he calls me back and wonders why I'm a little upset.
Well,
You know,
I can imagine
I
you're
mean,
upset,
you
sure.
think?
Sure.
Yeah, really? So then he tells me that he turns me over to Brandy, and then I
Brandy
spoke
Walters,
with
who
this
probably
young
handled
lady. And yeah, so then it's you know, talk to my insurance company, so then I get a call from the insurance lady, Meadowbrook, saying, oh, you know, it was just an overflow of the sewer water due to the heavy rains and we're not liable for anything. That's what I got. So I went through 4 people.
Well, and that's why when Karen called me, I said, why don't you come to the board? Sometimes you got to get to the place where we can make decisions.
'Cause I think
And if
that-
you felt like you were being passed around within the city, that's unfortunate, this should never happen, but when you called, I said, come to the board meeting, get on the agenda, don't do the 5 minutes, so we can have a conversation and discuss this at length.
Well, and
So here you
Kathy
are.
and I both talked to our lawyers, and that's what they recommended. Let's do the next channel, and that's where we're at right here.
So how do we, let's go back from the city side, or maybe just a Guy or Terry, how do we move this project up in the ranking of priorities? I mean, you know, the budget has a lot in it, and we have a lot of projects. How does that get moved up to a higher priority, or to at least make an assessment if there should be something more comprehensively done?
My suggestion would be, because we've got the camera work in the budget, I think it's a matter of just making that a priority for the new budget, which is effective just this week. And we've got crews that know how to run the sewer cameras. So I think it's just a matter of making it a priority and getting started with what that staff believes to be the worst areas, and then identifying from that camera work, you know, what lines need to be repaired or replaced.
I mean, I would like to see us do that. I think clearly you cannot have a situation where property owners have this type of problem in their residence, and we need to move it up on the scale of importance in what we look at.
I think we need to continue work on that. And one of the things I might tell you, some of the homeowners probably aren't going to like what we find. If we run cameras through there and we find out that your perimeter drain is tied into the sewer line, or your gutters are going into the sewer line, we're going to ask you to disconnect those, and at your expense. Not a good thing, but my surmise is that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons we're getting the stormwater into those systems. So, and that's going to be an ongoing process with the Works Department. So I want you all to know that too.
We want to be willing participants in helping solve the problem.
And we do too.
Because we even go through and do testing, or we used to do smoke testing, because there are also people who have their basement sump pumps not going outside, but going into the city sewer system, which
Not a good
impacts
thing.
infiltration. So those are the kind of things we have typically discovered in those areas where we've tried to fix those issues, and we just need to keep working on the project. To me, it's a priority.
So I think what we're telling you, we're willing to work on it. We need to identify and find out what's really causing the problem. And until
We, like Kathy, have installed a backflow preventer because after being told the city would do nothing, then we had to make sure that our renters were safe.
Right.
from
Sure.
this.
So at this point in time, I guess Terry or Guy, how should, if one of these property owners doesn't have a backflow preventer, how should they approach it with the city?
Somebody would call if they wanted a backflow preventer, or if they had a sewer backup.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Which are you asking?
Well, I guess I'm asking, if I'm sitting in the group here, my home doesn't have a backflow preventer, and I don't know if the city's going to reimburse me, not going to reimburse me, how do they go through the process with working with the city to resolve their
And
issue?
you have to have a permit.
Well, that's the question I'm asking. Well, how do they do that? Should they call Public Works? Should they call you, Terry? Who should they call to get the process going?
They should contact Public Works
Okay,
to get the process started.
okay. And if they're still not happy, who they contact then?
Me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mr. Osh, that's who I called, and he said that.
Okay, well, there's the pecking order. The other thing I guess we need to talk about is the issue of reimbursement on damages, and what is the situation with that? Now, they've been told that their insurance won't cover it, the city won't cover it. What's the policy? What do we typically do in situations like this?
Well,
Well, that's coming up on our
Oh,
our
is that
topic.
another budget line? Okay.
Yes, under the agenda item, we're going to
Okay,
discuss
sorry.
that. So we, well, if that's all you have, then we're going to move on to the next person.
That was the gentleman who kept trying to raise his hand.
I got item 101, 1001 Warren Avenue.
Yes, sir. My name is Chuck Irvin, and I'm the renter at 101. These are my landlords.
Okay.
They pretty much put it in a nutshell. My problem's probably small compared to everybody else's, but to me it's huge. I have a 14-year-old, she lives in the basement. On that night in question, she comes screaming up, when she went downstairs, it was like the Mississippi River down there. Everybody I talked to said you have to expect a little bit of rainwater, coming in. Well, what I had down there was not rainwater. I couldn't even see the bottom. It was like 10 inches of mud. It looked like the Mississippi River down there. It wasn't rainwater. It was sewer water. I pay a sewer bill each month just like everybody else. And with that, I should expect some type of the sewer to work properly. Some expectation that it would work without destroying our property. Like I said, my daughter lived down in that basement, everything was destroyed. We called Serpro to come in, give us an estimate. They said you can't keep that furniture because when the stench gets in there, you can't get it out. Well, we had a couple of leather chairs, leather couches. We tried to save them. We put them outside, wanted them air out. A couple days later, they still smelled. They were waterlogged. That was just some of the things, the couches, the chairs, the carpet, all that stuff is just ruined, gone. My insurance company, like they had mentioned, said there's nothing they could do. It's an act of God. Okay, well, I don't pay each month for act of God, I pay a sewer bill. Okay, and I think that somehow, that at least that property could be replaced. Okay, the next day I called in for a vacation day to help clean up the house. It took us all day to get all that stuff out, get all that crap out of there, to bleach the place, to put dehumidifiers down there. I mean, it's easy to say, but it was really a lot of work. And the thing is that I was most upset about was when I talked to my neighbors, they all said this happens every year. They said every year, those people who lived in that house before they bought it, they said it happened every year there. It flooded. Not just flood rainwater, but sewer water. And I was like, wow, didn't they do anything about it? They told the city. They came up here, they told the city. No, but nothing got done. Across the street, things got done. They got theirs put in, but when they put theirs in, it just made it come to our house even more because it had to come somewhere when it backed up. To me, the insurance people said they wouldn't do anything because we would have to prove neglect. Okay? To me, neglect is knowing something exists and not doing anything about it. That's neglect. Plain and simple. The city knew that problem existed, they didn't do anything about it. That's neglect. And I told the insurance people that's the platform stand on. That is neglect. They didn't fix it. If they would have fixed it, I wouldn't be calling you today. I wouldn't have went through that ordeal. That's all I got to say.
One quick question, this is for also Ms. Madsen and Ms. Cunningham. I can't remember, Kathy, if you mentioned the insurance. You all have insurance, do you all have riders on your insurance for the sewer backup? You do?
And I've had to do 2 claims, one in 2009 and one this year, and that's my expense. And they're giving me problems now. They're not wanting to take care of this because it's an ongoing situation. And I've lived there since I was 5 years old.
What's your address?
918.
See, I don't have that rider on my insurance. And my daughter lived in the basement in 2009 too, and everything she owned got ruined too, and nothing was done about it. So just to let you know that.
There's $1,000 deductible.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like it's their responsibility. I feel like it's the city.
And that's what our insurance company said too. It's the sewer and drain of the city of Warrenton. It's not my insurance company.
But and whether or not you've made a claim, do you have that rider on your
do
insurance?
not.
Okay.
Okay.
Of course, and they never drove trade, yeah, never thought to look at it.
Anybody else?
I have one quick question.
Mr. Brewer? Mr. Brewer?
What's yours?
You said there would be at least half of the backflow devices. You mentioned anybody that needs them now could apply. What about the 2 of us that's already installed one to protect our home?
We get reimbursed for those monies.
What do you got to tell us?
Okay, I'm the next house up. I didn't get flooded, and these backflow preventers concern me. It's like the levees on the river. Somebody builds a levee and everything's all fine until somebody downstream builds a higher one, and then they flood again. I don't want my house to flood.
And you're next door to which house?
I'm next door to...
Okay.
He's on further
And yours has never flooded?
Has never flooded.
Okay.
So far. I
Okay.
hope it stays that way.
So I guess what
These
I'm...
backflow preventers make me nervous because,
See, they put,
like I say, the levee
they
theory.
just put theirs in, so
Yes.
us three's probably gonna be in.
Okay, so as they're putting preventers on, it's causing the other houses to...
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It's 1,000 square foot house. If you got a foot deep water, that's 1,000 square, or cubic feet of water.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, and also, I'd like to say, a lot of times, I believe, maybe it's not true, the government spends all kinds of money on surveys and engineering and stuff like that, and it'd be cheaper to fix a problem. Why couldn't they go down where the sewer's at, where the bottleneck's at, put a bigger pipe and take it down?
Mhm. Well, we think the answer is, how's it getting in there? We really need to find out where sewer water and storm water's
Like I
mixing,
say,
how's it
you
getting in
you
there?
spend a lot of money on that and blow your budget, and then you have money to fix it.
I know that too. That's true. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's your name again?
I'm 918. Deb's right in front of me. I've been there since I was 5. We bought the home from my mother. This never happened until June 2009. I bought the house in 2006. I had the rider on my insurance, went through the proper channels, was told by the city before that there was nothing they could do, and Guy had told me that there was in 2009, a 10 to 15 year plan to raise them, but the ones behind my house have not been raised. Not only is it the sewer, but behind my house, where the waterway has been chipped away. There's a huge hole that's 20 foot long, and it's like a diamond shape. It's huge. It's almost to my fence. We have the property all the way across, but we have an easement because of the waterway. There's a huge hole, and you can look down there, and there's wires. They tried to fix it one time. Guy had them come and put rocks, and they pounded that down. The next water took them all away. Huge, huge rocks. Something needs to be done back there. The concrete needs to come out more to find the
So
solution.
you're talking about the concrete waterway that the city put in years ago?
Yes, that's my backyard.
Okay.
The water comes up halfway to my backyard when it floods. It goes right back down within a couple hours, but it's a problem. And there's, you know, my son's 6, you know, we have a fence to protect our child, you know. I mean, I grew up in this house. We had the fence built when we bought the house, and it's, you know,
Okay.
a problem.
Thank you.
Like I say, we got.
Yeah, there's always water.
And if the grass doesn't cut, it gets rats and everything else.
I'm going to move on to item E. And Alderman Ock asked about our sewer backup policy and insurance claims letter. Who's addressing that?
You got the Public Works Incident Report.
Are you doing this?
Pardon me?
I think you jumped over.
Oh, did I jumped over D?
Yes.
How about Public Works Incident Report? Let's do that one first.
You want me to read it or just go through the,
It's a highlight.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Gavers on that? Guy, what's your assessment? I mean, what's our main problem over there?
we need to look at where the I&I is coming from.
A what?
We need to look to see where our infiltration's coming from.
Okay.
And then we're just gonna have to put a crew on it and start going and looking and repairing what we can repair and contract out what we can't repair.
And that's something we're actively doing? We've got crews that...
We have extra, I put an extra man at the wastewater treatment plant, so we're gonna have 2 gentlemen that go out and do the routine flushing and do the camera work. You have to flush the lines to be able to operate the camera.
Okay.
In the mains, and that's what we need to work.
You think that approach will fix it, though? I mean, I'm going back to, and this has been 20 years ago, Fred will remember this, we had huge water issues on Flora, and we basically took the whole project on as a big project. We financed it, had to pay it off in a number of years, and went in there, and basically, it used to be a ditch-type situation. We basically fixed the whole area. Is this something that we need to approach on a bigger scale? Because you've got the infiltration issue, but you also have had for years the water runoff issue from the Gloom Park behind her home. And that's been problematic, you know, when I was on the board 20 years ago. And I wonder if we should really look at looking that whole area, because the concern was expressed when Russ did build his subdivision up higher. What was the impact of that on the areas below? And the areas below were always below, even when that was farmland above there. But I wonder if we should take a more comprehensive look at how to address this than just, you know, we can work on the I&I, take care of the problem initially, but in the long term, maybe we need to invest some money and fix it once and for all.
It's a major problem.
It's a major problem, and it's not going to go away. You're just going to push the problem around.
Well, it's going to be costly, I'll say that, because in 1999 or 2000, Miko Engineering done an assessment of that entire area over there. It runs from Highway M all the way out to Whispering Pines and everything east of Highway 47. It lays like a great big bowl. All the water in that area all runs,
one area,
goes to the east. They done an assessment of that thing, and they told us at that time it was going to cost $2.2 million to straighten that out over there. So at that time, we applied for a stormwater grant, which we were denied. And at that point, we just decided we couldn't afford to put out $2.2 million, and it was tabled at that time. So that, we did have an engineering thing done on it, and that's the assessment.
And that's what I was talking about, where you spend all the money engineering it, and then you ain't got no money to fix it.
Well, the engineering didn't cost nearly that much to have the assessment done, but that was the figures they gave us.
Well, if I recall right, that whole project was talking about a comprehensive thing to handle everything from basically 47 down.
Well,
and the question I have, is there a more of a piecemeal approach that a person can do? Because you drive through that whole area, and it's definitely a road and ditch area. It's all a part of town, and that's just, I mean, I live in a road and ditch area too, but this part sits so much lower than the rest of town, because the elevation drop from 47 down is significant. maybe it's something we look at again, maybe it's something we get the economic development person to see if she can find grant resources to go after this in a more comprehensive way.
And this is not the only location. I believe Arrowhead Manor has a similar runoff problems from Whispering Pines, and they've been fighting that for several years now.
Probably all going to the same place.
Absolutely.
All goes to the same place.
Is part of our hang up on that waterway there at Pinckney Street where it goes under the highway? Are we getting water or debris or something that's causing that to back up in that waterway?
It's just so much water. Don't have nowhere for it to go.
No?
I mean, it flushes it out. I'm sure, we have to go out and clean it, but it's
just that much
just
water.
that much water.
More and more hard
Just
surface.
More than it can handle.
I mean, look at the parking lots that are at the school, at the new high school over the last few years. More and more hard surface.
Yeah.
Guy, at the end of your report, one of my concerns is a concern about the backflow prevention devices that have been installed, I guess, at 1001 and 1007. You're saying that they are installed improperly?
They're between the clean out and the city main. So if I have to go and flush the clean out, I won't be able to pull my jetter back. I can go through it, but I can't come back. It should have been on the other side, so that way I could go to the clean out and flush the clean out to the main. Because if there's a clean out, from the clean out to the main, then the city takes the clean out to the main and is responsible for that.
So if there's a clean out hole in the streets here, the backflow preventer's here, instead of being on the other side. So it's installed on the wrong side of the clean
That's
out?
on the wrong side of the clean out.
So if you can't flush the clean out, what is that?
Then all we'll do is flush the main.
Yeah, that backflow should be between the clean out and the foundation of the house.
That's correct.
Maybe the city should put them in when we ask, instead of having us do it on our own.
Who was the plumber that did it?
Bennett Plumbing.
He should know better.
Yeah, so maybe
No other questions. I'm going to move on to item 7E, sewer backup policy and insurance claims letters. Who's doing that?
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
In 2004, the board put this policy into place. I've done some research the last few days, and it looks like it was as a result of a backup problem that existed out on Country Lane. There were several claims there. And then in that discussion, the board decided that they needed to create a policy. So in 2004, they put the policy in place that basically says that when there are backup claims, then they are submitted to the city's insurance carrier for a determination of liability. And then the insurance carrier makes the determination based on their findings. And it also speaks about, upon the occurrence of the first backup incident, that the property owner will be required to install the backflow preventer device, and that the city and the property owner will divide the cost up to a maximum of $1,000. So I don't know why you all were not instructed that this policy existed. I don't have an explanation, but it is a long-standing policy that's been in place.
Let me, for clarification, city or property owner will divide the cost of the installation of the backflow valves up to a maximum of $1,000. Does that mean the city will provide up to $1,000, or the cost of the repair of the backflow preventer is $1,000?
I believe our interpretation has been that the city will split the cost up to the city's expense of $1,000.
Okay, so if the repair costs $2,000,
the city would pay
$1,000. Okay, that just wasn't. I don't think that's so clear.
Where do we stand now that the backflow preventers have been, in Guy's opinion, installed incorrectly at our own expense? Now where do we go?
because he told us.
Because we were told that we had to do it at our own expense, and we hired
By him.
a licensed plumber to do the
Okay,
job.
okay, hold on. I want to hear guys back there I see shaking his head a little bit. I'd at least like to give Guy the opportunity to address.
I never told anybody that they need to install a backflow preventer. Everything that I explained was that you can contact Brandy Walters, we'll turn the information in, I'll contact Brandy Walters, we'll get the claim going, and then she'll take that, and then the insurance company will contact the homeowners from the insurance company, that I don't have no say to say, yeah, we're gonna take care of it, or we're not gonna take care of it.
Kathy and I will both tell you that he told us it was our responsibility that we needed to install a backflow preventer.
I didn't even know what one was.
2009.
Okay.
Well, but it is the property owner's responsibility. I mean, the city can't come on your property and install a backflow preventer. So, I mean, that's why we're sharing costs.
They did on the other one.
Well, I don't know what the story was, if we did it, or they agreed, or what, I can't remember what the circumstances were relative to that. So we'd have to research that and find out, because we can't enter your property and do anything without your permission. I mean, I think if you got a beef about them being installed wrong, it's with the plumber who should have known better. I mean, I'm not a plumber, but it's pretty basic stuff to know which side of the clean out the backflow preventer is supposed to be on.
Well, I have a concern that maybe Guy is wrong. I don't know, I've got a journeyman plumber that's doing it as he's done his whole life. And now we're getting somebody that tells us we're not even covered, or they're not gonna cover it, and now the thing's in the wrong place. I'm getting really confused.
Well, we certainly can meet with the plumber to see what the story is. I mean, from what was explained, what you explained, it sounds like it's put on backwards, the way you explained it. Because I've just done this work in the building that I'm responsible for.
And I wouldn't know whether it was on backwards or not. I'm not a plumber, so I have to take other people's word on it, so.
My understanding was that's kind of that installation is the industry standard of the location that just doesn't make sense. But again, I'm not a plumber, that's just what I've been told.
Yeah. Okay. Tom?
Okay, I've lived there since 1984, bought the house brand new. Like I say, I didn't get the flood on the next house up. But I don't remember exactly when it was when that concrete ditch was put in. But the reason that concrete ditch was put in was because of severe erosion. We didn't have the severe erosion until the city put a sewer line where that concrete ditch is. In the first place, the city should have never even put it there because they didn't have a right-of-way for it. They didn't have a utility right-of-way there. All they had was grassy water right-of-way. But it was after that, the city probably didn't engineer that project properly, and that probably runs down to where the bottleneck's at. And it picks up all that area south, I guess.
Yeah, I know that, so, okay.
Well,
So if the city did it wrong, they should fix it.
Ms. Thorne, do you have any thoughts on, my immediate thought is these people have attempted to remedy the problem, and the problem is, I guess, remedied, but maybe it's even worse in that we can't flush I guess I'm looking for a solution to the issue with the backflow preventers that are installed wrong now.
Well, my suggestion would be that the first thing we need to do is have someone from our Public Works Department meet out there with the plumber and just have a discussion.
Okay.
And then I believe that if the board chooses that we could, well, hopefully the plumber would agree to move the device to the proper location if they can come to that agreement. And then the city should reimburse half of that cost, just as we have in other situations.
Does that sound like?
Let's get the plumber out there with him and we'll go from there.
Sure. I mean, discussion it certainly can't end up worse than where we're at right now, it doesn't seem.
Fix it properly.
Right, absolutely.
That's the issue here.
Right.
But we did follow Mr. Gibbons' advice about the backhoe device. And back to him saying he didn't say that word. Until that moment, I didn't know exactly what they were. And then I punched it up on the internet. So, in all the years, I've never run a phone.
Okay.
So I didn't dream that when I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how we're gonna address that part of the issue. What about the insurance part of the issue? Have these claims been filed with the city? Are we in the process? Where are we at on that?
They've been sent to Meadowbrook Insurance, and you have in your file the response letters from Meadowbrook for Ms. Madsen, Mr. and Mrs. Irvin, and I'm not sure who the Joe Jackson or Michael Jackson.
Well, I never got my letter because
But
she
the
didn't
letter's
have my home
addressed here.
address. It went to my renters and he threw it away, so I don't even know what the letter said.
Okay.
And then the one for Ms. Cunningham, that says that the investigation found that the insured was not at fault. Cause of the backup was due to heavy rains. They respectfully declined to make any voluntary payments for damages that were sustained in the loss. And all the letters are the same, except for who they're addressed to.
Has the city's insurance ever honored a claim like this?
Actually, I wondered about that myself today. So I asked Brandy to check with Meadowbrook, and the response we got back is that since 2004, there have been 21 claims for sewer backup, totaling somewhere around $106,000. And of those 21, 17 had been paid.
And how do they decide who gets to be paid and who doesn't?
We'd have to talk to their investigator to know that information.
So their position is, they don't really care if it's infiltration. It was a rain event that caused this. It wasn't because the city's sewer didn't function properly and therefore they could file a claim. But it was purely, according to letters, it was purely the rain event that they look at as the issue. And not a dysfunction of the sewer system.
I have it on my phone right now. The lady from Meadowbrook calling my cell phone and leaving me a message saying that she was calling about the sewer backup and that it was an overflow of rainwater. So she admitted that it's the sewer that backed up.
Right.
But then told me that she wasn't going to do anything about it.
Alderman Ock, if I can, there is a legal standard with regards to, whether the municipality is negligent with regards to sewer backup and, whether or not the city has a policy for backflow sewer device. And that was something that we kind of brought in in 2004 with the insurance company policy. So it's not as though they're just arbitrarily deciding it. There is a standard, there is an investigation, there is a prior notice issue and whatnot. So I just want to make sure that it's not just, there is a legal standard to it, a negligence standard.
Yeah, I would assume if the cause was because the system failed, that would be covered. But what they're saying is the system didn't fail, you just had too much water that infiltrated in, therefore it wasn't a problem with the system.
And I'm not sure what their review of it was, and I know there's letters included in here just saying they've denied the claim voluntarily. So that's taking it from what they're saying their voicemail says about what the issue was. But the insurance company is going to look at it from a legal standpoint as far as liability or not liability. They do an investigation on that.
Would it be a benefit to go back and ask them to reconsider?
You're asking me that?
No, I'm asking Terry that.
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if we as the city have any ability to ask their investigator to reconsider, because we've never done that. So I don't have any history to rely on, and I also don't know if we have any ability to influence that.
Well, we subrogate that. The mayor can talk about subrogation. We basically, part of our contract of insurance, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, is we allow them to make the decision in a common term way. Is that correct, Mayor? Mm-hmm. We subrogate that out as part of our contract of insurance with them. So, you can ask them to, but are they required to now?
Well, then it doesn't hurt to not ask.
Can I say something?
Never hurts to ask.
I talked to her on the phone, the claim adjuster. They're in Kansas City. She told me the investigation revealed. I said, what investigation? Did you come out here? She said, no. She goes, she did her investigation on what we wrote. That was it. That's what she based her investigation on. They're in Kansas somewhere.
I understand.
And she told, and she told me, and what she heard, and she told me it was rainwater. I said, it wasn't rainwater.
There was no
It was
investigation
sewer
at
water.
all.
And she said her investigation said it was rainwater came in my basement. No, it wasn't rainwater. I'll send you pictures to prove it wasn't rainwater.
I'm like you, I don't think it's anything lost to refile it, ask for,
Consideration.
ask them to reconsider it. I don't see any harm in that. I mean, the worst they're gonna do is say, no, we
So
reaffirmed it.
then the next question is, has the city had a policy or practice in the past that if insurance denies a claim such as this, that the city will reimburse the homeowner a portion of the costs? Or as a rule, as a policy, we simply say to this gentleman, well, your material loss is your material loss, sorry.
The policy actually says, in the event that the insurance carrier determines that no reimbursement will be made from it, the city will not make any reimbursement to the individual presenting the claim.
Have we ever made exception to the policy?
Not since 2004.
So basically, the city's saying, we don't want to do anything about your problems, we don't want to do anything about your loss, we don't want to do anything good.
No, that's not what we're saying.
Because some investigator who did
Well,
investigate it said it wasn't
That's not
a
true.
claim, so then the city says, well, they said it wasn't a claim, so it's not a claim. So we have no liability? That's what you just said. I mean, that's ridiculous. Somebody that didn't even investigate it is saying, stormwater. So the city says, well, the insurance company says, stormwater, so we don't have any liability? That's foolish.
Right, and then she tells me to check with my homeowner's policy. It wasn't an issue in our home. It was the city of Warrenton sewer and drain that backed up.
She said we'd have to prove negligence on the city's part. That's what she told me, to get anything done, we'd have to prove negligence. And I said, well, if they knew it existed, and they didn't do anything about it, is that
That's
negligence?
negligence, that's right.
So did your sewer back up before, or is this the first time they've done it?
We just bought the house in
just bought the
September.
home. It's done before.
But
I
we
mean, on
have
all those
records
houses
saying
that it
it's
has
done this.
happened to, that don't have the
Them houses
backflow.
done it in 2009, the same as ours, but they weren't living there.
Neighbors of the house floods every year.
Mine's backed up with water 3 times since 2009, up my drain pipe in my basement. I don't even have a bathroom in my basement, it comes right up the drain.
And if it's been happening since 2009 and the city of Warrenton's known about it, not done anything to fix it, then it's negligence.
Well, if I understand this, I mean, it's what happened before, it was before 2009 when the other things were, the other houses that had the backflow preventers put on. It was before 2009 or then when that happened.
Those houses, yeah, down the street.
So the city didn't know it was gonna happen at the other houses.
That's what I was looking at.
That's what we're saying, they put it in 2009, in those houses down around the corner.
So
And
when
when
we
they
did
did
our
it,
house.
that storm that came, what, a month or so, a couple months after they put it in, that's when it backed up in all of ours.
I've been in my home since I was 5, pretty much solid. We bought it for my mom. I've been there since 1985. You know, it never happened. My husband and I probably would not have bought the house, okay?
You're on your own.
Probably
I
not.
bought my house in 2002. First time anything ever happened in my house.
See, and Marshall
No, I
Winfrey,
don't.
who owns 1006, her letter states that it was approximately 2007, 2008 that the backflow device was installed.
So why is it happening now? If it hasn't happened in all those other years?
Because it was
They
happening
put that
on the
other
east
sewer line
side.
in back behind where the concrete thing's at.
It was happening on the east side.
You think
They
it's-
put the
And once they had the backflow,
It moved it up the street.
we kept it
Okay,
up.
all right, so you're saying it's the backflow preventers pushing it back up the street?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can't afford to buy them and have them put in our.
I suspect, Jerry, from the timeline that I've discovered, a
Okay.
lot of this started for the first 4 homes when they broke ground on Cedar Hills. You know yourself, and they put concrete roads in, roofs, basements. Those things don't absorb water. They simply flow down to the streets. And when I talked to the first of the 4, she said it started not long after they started development in their homes, the flooding. And that would have, she told me she thought that was like 95 or 6 is when it started. And it wasn't too bad, it just got worse and worse.
Okay.
And this doesn't do any good for you all at this point. I'm not saying that you all are up a creek. Maybe not be the right phrase to use, but one of the things though, and I spoke with Terry about this afternoon, is the need to inform people of the possibility of sewer backups. My understanding is in the past, there has been a yearly bulletin mailed out. I want to make sure that we're still doing that and explaining what to do in the sewer, when there's a sewer backup, and stressing the importance of a insurance rider for sewer backup. Maybe the ability to have half of the cost of a backflow preventer covered. And maybe also do that with the new utility. When somebody comes new to the city, Mr. Irvin would have come and moved into the city and had the utilities put into his name. That be part of that packet, so he is aware. At least until we can address the issue, at least make people aware that the issue is out there. And unfortunately, I guess the Madsons probably didn't get that as.
No, I think that would have helped anyone.
Yeah, you at least get the beware.
Insurance for this.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you're dealing with our insurance. I have had the opportunity in my personal experience of dealing with my own insurance where I didn't agree with what my insurance company ruled. I don't know on this one, but don't hold us. I at least am concerned and have an issue with what you all are going through. I don't think any board member is not sympathetic to what you're going through, but our policy says what we're going to do, which is going to allow the determination of the insurance to kind of rule this, but certainly to appeal it, to take further action.
When there's water in your basement, there's tornado sirens, I mean, what are we supposed to do?
That must be the safe haven in our house.
Yeah,
That's where we're supposed to go.
I know, I wish I could, I truly wish I could tell you the answer to that.
It really is preventable by having backflow preventers in the homes, right?
I believe it is, yes, yes. Well, at least for you, at some point, I guess it just keeps pushing it up until you get to higher ground, but backflow preventers at least seem to eliminate the crisis, correct? So,
So what happens to the ones who can't even afford to come up with half?
the half price.
I mean, really?
I'm not again, you're talking to somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck also. I'm not unsympathetic to that. $400, if I had to come up with $400, I don't have a backflow preventer on my house. If I come up with an extra $400, I might.
How do we proceed from here? I mean, how do we get with the city to now determine whether it's been installed correctly or incorrectly and get some of the reimbursement for what we've already spent?
I think that Mr. Gevers needs to set something up with Mark, and maybe they can come to some kind of consensus and start a dialogue. Apparently, there were some communication issues. I don't know where that breakdown is because I wasn't there, but obviously there were, and there wasn't communication. Doesn't certainly mean that we're not all adults and we can't start communicating from this point forward and try and come up with a solution from this point
One more
forward.
question to Guy. You know, with sending the cameras back down, you know, I've had an issue where they got the camera stuck in my yard and I had to dig my yard 15 foot, you know, and then this was a couple years ago. This isn't gonna happen again, right?
We certainly hope not. We hope not.
Manhole in her yard, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we get the jetter truck stuck and we had to dig our yard up.
Okay.
Your problem now.
And I wish I had better news for you. As far as what help we can do for you immediately, one of our issues is we have a policy in place and we govern off of ordinances and policies. Nothing we can do for you without changing our policy and ordinances. So we'll have to take a look at that. look into that?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what we're here
You know,
for?
Well, I wonder if we need to call a water sewer meeting. Who's the chair? Water sewer committee?
Yeah, who is the chair of the water and sewer?
I am.
We called water sewer committee and talked about, because, I mean, I could see some consideration of changing the policy to cover up to $1,000, not half of it. I mean, if you're gonna commit to 1,000 on the split, why not just commit to 1,000? So you could address people who don't have the $400 to $500. Because exposure is 1,000 anyway, so what's the difference in making a policy change that says we'll reimburse you up to 1,000, period? So in some cases, if you got it done for $800, so the reimbursement would be $800.
well, the only reason we did too is because Kathy and I did it together, and we asked him, if we both get it
You got the
done,
group discount?
we got a discount.
I mean, I don't have any problem looking at the policy and making that change, because we can't be tied to the policy. We have
Say
to-
Jim's the chairman of that?
No,
Or Fred is? Okay, you have any problems with
No.
revisiting that?
Can we schedule a meeting before the next meeting, a sewer committee meeting?
Okay.
6 o'clock? Is that all right?
John's involved in that?
Who's on the
Okay.
committee?
All right, let's all set that up and we'll go from there.
Who's on the committee?
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you. We're gonna move on. My next item on the agenda is,
Mayor, I think you had one more question back there.
yes, we had another question?
Okay, I was just wondering, they said that they couldn't go on the city couldn't go on the property and put the backflow preventers in. Where does the city's sewer, where does the sewer become the city? I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the city, you're talking about the sewer easement?
Yeah.
Where does the sewer become the city's, otherwise it's private? What part are they responsible for?
My understanding is that the clean out. If, one side of the clean out is the cities, and the other side of the clean out is the property owners. Is that all right?
And at the clean out's usually on a property line between the city and the property owner in that vicinity. So it's usually within 15 feet of where the curve is.
So our clean out that we just had installed, here's the backflow preventer, and the clean out, which would be used by a plumber to clean out any sewage back into the house,
Right.
is between the house, because if they put the backflow preventer on the other side, and the clean out was on the city side, how would they go through the backflow preventer into the home? It has to be on the house side, because that's the clean out for the house.
I don't know that either. Don't know that
That's why you're
either.
meeting with your plumber.
Did
in the
you,
city.
Tom, did you get your question answered?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
From the clean out?
Yeah, it's basically from the clean out, one side, the city's responsible. So if you have a sewer backup problem, you can go to the clean out, you can see where the backup is at the clean out. And if it's this way, you know it's somewhere down the trunk.
All right, I'm moving on to item 8, is the Greater Warren County Economic Development Update, Mr. Josh Beck. You're going to share some good news.
That's right, Mayor Dyer, Board of Aldermen, thank you so much for having me here today, and first and foremost, thank you for your support of the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council. I understand that everybody has an electronic copy of our annual report, I believe.
I think so.
I have hard copies if anybody doesn't, but I think you have it hopefully in front of you. This is a synopsis of the first year, the inaugural year of your nonprofit economic development organization, the Greater Warren County EDC. So I thought what I'd do is quickly walk through the document and then see if you have any questions for me at the end. But the first thing, behind the cover page is a list of the current Greater Warren County EDC contributors and partners, something I'm very, very proud of. I know when we came to you initially and talked about trying to pursue economic development and job creation in our community, we said that it's a task that's going to require having many, many seats at the table. And I think that as you can see from this list, that is something we were able to accomplish early on in our first year of operations. 5 area governments, 2 school districts, 3 chambers of commerce, and nearly 60 businesses were mobilized in the spirit of economic development for this region. And I think because of that, it led to some of the successes that we're going to talk about later on. Pages 2 and 3, a letter from our president, and then our current 2012-2013 Board of Directors. I'll ask if you see any of these people, please be sure to offer your thanks. They've dedicated a tremendous amount of time of their, time, talent, and treasure to making sure this effort was successful in its inaugural year. and they deserve our thanks. I also want to thank Michelle Schlenter, I know your Economic Development Coordinator, who sat on the board with us and represented the city of Warrenton, hopefully kept you updated on some of the many activities we've been involved with over this past year. The board is actually electing new board members and our officers at our July meeting, the third Monday in July, and so we'll ask that the board consider letting us know who you want the nominee from the city of Warrenton to be to serve on that board of directors again. The next couple of pages, page 4, is something that I think you're familiar with. It was a recap of a 5-month process that we went through with a public sector advisory committee and a private sector advisory committee, designing this organization and the organizational model and the focus and the mission and the objectives, etc. And that is again summarized very briefly on page 4. Leading into page 5, which is the first one that actually breaks into one of our key and critical missions of GWC EDC, and that is supporting our existing business community. We do that in a number of ways. First, with project management support. Anytime we have a company in this region that is at threat of closure or relocation, or there's an opportunity for them to expand their presence here in the Warren County region, we offer assistance from folks like myself to come in and help them manage that project, help them make the best business case to their headquarters or what have you to get that expansion or prevent that closure or relocation and ensure those jobs stay here or expanded here in the greater Warren County area. We've got a couple of active projects right now that are in our project pipeline that are in this category of helping existing companies potentially expand, and hope to have some good announcements for you in the near future. The other two, education. We have actually hosted workshops for area human resource directors, connecting them with the resources available to them at the state and federal level and local level at our career centers to provide training assistance and employee recruitment assistance, etc. We've also brought in speakers on issues like the use tax and what that means to our business community to make sure they're informed and understanding on issues like that. And then finally, networking. We believe a strong local economy begins with a strong local network. And so we regularly create opportunities for our business community to network with one another and with individuals like yourself, ensuring that they know what products and services exist in their backyard that they hopefully won't have to leave our region to find. And we've had a lot of success with that. Page 6 and 7 is a recap of our marketing effort. Again, one thing that we focus on is marketing our region as the location of choice for new and expanding businesses. As many of you know, marketing is an area that can become very expensive very quickly, and so we decided to spend a few months really dedicated to making sure that while we don't have the budget that some of our competition has, we want to make sure that we're spending those dollars very strategically and very targeted. And so we spent some time trying to clearly define our target audience and identifying ways that we could best be put in front of them. We said early on that our target audience really views us not as individual cities or even as a county, but really as a region. And so the EDC decided to partner with your neighbors to the west, Montgomery County's EDC, under the branding campaign Access STL West, where they pool marketing funds together in pursuit of some of the events that you'll see on the right-hand side. I show you the marketing expenditures by target audience. You can see some of our industry targets like automotive suppliers, food processing and distribution, site selection consultants, etc. You can see how our expenditures have lined out. And then a list on the bottom of some of the events and advertising opportunities that we have been involved with so far. Again, trying to generate those leads of companies that may be interested in locating in our region. That all leads to page 8, our active project pipeline. Before we can win projects like HT Hackney and CertTeed, we have to win the right to compete for the project. And so this shows you what our active project pipeline has looked like in our very first year of operations. Again, something we're very, very proud of. In order to be considered an active project for GWC EDC, it has to be one that we're not just hearing about a lead or know that a company is looking. We actually have to submit a real estate proposal and make it through at least one round of cuts. And so you can see in the chart there, we've gotten 17 projects to reach that status in our inaugural year. In those 17 projects, over 1,000 jobs that we've been competing for at an average wage of about $41,000 per year, well above the average wage of the Warren County area, which is something we're very proud of, and a total known capital investment of over $436 million. 2 of those projects, we've gotten all the way across the finish line to the successful and publicly announced stage, and I'll go over those here in just a second. But on the bottom, you can see we've got 13 active projects. That was actually as of the time this report was printed. As of today, that number is 15 active projects that we're currently pursuing. I want to call special attention to the bottom 2 pie charts on page 8, as this is good information, I think, for you as elected officials, the types of industries that are looking at our region for these projects and the reason that they're interested in our area. Top industry trends, 68% of those projects in the active status have been in manufacturing, which is great news for us. 16%, that's second runner-up, is in food processing, and 11% in distribution, 5% in IT or information technology. Primary reason for interest, anytime we have a company that reaches our active project pipeline, we ask them the number 1 through 3 reasons as to why we're being considered on that short list, and we've broken those down for you here. A lot of interest because of available real estate, sites, buildings. That's always kind of a requirement to get to the next round of consideration, but also a big chunk that's focused on proximity to markets. We found that's primarily proximity to the St. Louis market in particular, and then transportation assets. And the 2 in particular that has really generated a lot of leads has been our proximity to Interstate 70 as well as rail. A lot of these, especially manufacturing companies, are asking to have the ability to access rail. Whether or not they need it immediately, they want to have the opportunity to access rail if they need to. And we work closely with Norfolk Southern on many of these projects. That's been a good asset to us. And then page 9, the final page, and the one that most people are the most interested in, the list of our successful projects. Again, in our inaugural year, we're very proud to have said that we got 2 all the way to being publicly announced. In those 2 projects, 115 new direct jobs completed as part of phase 1, and an estimated capital investment from those announced projects of $100,350,000. The 2 that were included, I provided some descriptions there as well as their code names and some of the information that we had on the projects and the companies. But first, Certainty, which hopefully you're familiar with and have seen some of the great activity and earth moving that's happening just to the west of where we are today. But that was a very highly competitive project. We began presenting our region in July of 2012 for this project. Went through a very hard-fought competition with some other shovel-ready sites in 2 other states, existing buildings in another state. And in the end, here in April, we're able to successfully announce that Certainty had chosen our region for their $100 million roofing shingle manufacturing plant. We're going to have a formal groundbreaking ceremony in the very near future, and you'll be receiving some information on that. We hope that you can attend with us here later in July. The second project was the H.T. Hackney Company. This is one that, if you're familiar with H.T. Hackney, a very large company, one that we're proud to have as part of our business community, and are already talking to them about additional projects. But they chose our location for a satellite distribution hub and test kitchen to show off some of their products to clients that they're going to bring in. They chose our location over competing locations along I-70 between Wentzville and Columbia, as well as down I-44 in that corridor. So we're happy to have them as part of our business community as well. So again, this is a snapshot of a lot of activity. There are things in here that are not included in here that we've been involved with. We're currently working with the Missouri Homebuilders Association to host an event in September to bring their membership out. HBA is going to host an event with us that we help them put on to talk about housing opportunities in the greater Warren County area. We're trying to promote entrepreneurship, especially to our area students. We've sponsored a student to attend the University of Missouri Build a Business Boot Camp. So one of your area students from the high school here is going to spend a week at University of Missouri's campus hearing from other young entrepreneurs and actually writing a business plan and going through all the steps it takes to launch a business. So a lot of exciting things that are being done here just this first year. This is just a snapshot. But thank you for your support. Again, it would not be possible without having folks like you behind us, and we look forward to another successful year. So thank you again. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Josh. Does any board members have any questions you want to address to Mr. Beck?
When's the next big project going to be settled? That's the only question. We want to know, who's next? That's
I think my board gave me about 24 hours before it was, what have you done for me lately?
That's right.
That's right. Always looking ahead.
So I'm sure there's always something in the pipeline that you guys are working on, and we appreciate what you've done for us so far. We're looking for more good things in the future.
Sure, absolutely.
So, good. The actual construction of the building, Is there a time frame on when Certainty is going to start that?
So if you've seen the grading work taking place, a lot of dirt moving very, very quickly. Bid packets for the first phase, which is the warehouse distribution center, about 150,000 square foot building is what we expect. The bid packets, I believe, went out at the end of last week. They expect about 3 weeks to get those back and begin construction then by this fall. Actually, they hope to have started construction in the next 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
That has to be up and running by next summer, but they expect it to be much, much sooner than that. Once they have their permits, then they're going to begin construction on the manufacturing facility, 60,000 square foot manufacturing.
And I'm sure they need water and sewer and gas all brought to that site too, so.
And on a daily basis, we're working on that project.
Working on that.
That's right.
Good.
Actually, something we see as a great opportunity. We are putting a water tower on the property. We're extending sewer. We're actually bringing natural gas. The intent from Ameren is to extend natural gas line from Warrenton all the way to the Certainty site, which is great news for us. We like to see more development opportunities between here and there, and bringing those utilities to those properties will encourage that.
Great, great.
Had people ask me about the sewer situation. How's that being handled? They tying into Jonesburg, or they got their own sewage disposal?
The amount of sewer is actually pretty small. They use a lot of water, but the water is all used up in the processing. So, and I hate to speak on behalf of the company, but I'll tell you that from my discussions with them, the wastewater is primarily just to serve the employees that are going to be there. So it's relatively small for that size of project. But they're actually looking at a number of different plans. One would be to go to Jonesburg, one would be to go to Pendleton, one would be on-site treatment. But they're working with the PWSD, number one, Montgomery County's water district, to put together those solutions. And of course, DNR has been involved early on in the project, and so they're working with them on that as well.
Any other questions? Gary, John? Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. I got item 9, Warrior Ridge traffic concerns and children at play. Who wants to address that?
I'm the one that asked for that to be put on the agenda. I was contacted by a resident in Warrior Ridge subdivision, particularly on the circle, complaining about specific vehicles, and I'll get with the chief at some time to give him a description of that specific vehicle, because I located that the other day as I was driving through the neighborhood. But that has been, I know there was an incident earlier this year where a vehicle was nearly up on 2 wheels coming through there in close proximity to the schools. I think they get a lot of young drivers through there. So her request was for more residential traffic patrol and the installation of some signs. There are a number of, that's a young family subdivision, the number of kids that are playing, to at least give some warning to the motorists that there are children at play.
On any particular street, or?
This was particularly on the circle. Everything else is kind of a dead-end court and doesn't get that much traffic, but.
I mean, I think the 2 entrances into the subdivision would be perfect opportunities to put signs up to, make everybody aware. So one probably at Pinckney and one on the Warrior side would probably do it.
Okay. Sounds good. That'll work.
When do the signs go up? I'm kind of curious of what's the process, because I know I mentioned signs on one of the streets in our area, they're still on opposite city.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How long typically does it take to get a sign up once the board says we want to sign up and the chief approves it?
It usually takes 3 days, 3 to 4 days to order the sign and get it in, and then we'll go call locates in, or we'll just use the vac truck and set them.
Because the sign on
McKinley,
I don't think was put in yet, was it? I didn't see it the other day when I
Yeah, we put them up.
Did you? Okay.
They've been up for...
I'll drive by again. Maybe I was paying attention to my driving.
No, they're up.
Okay.
Does that answer your questions, Alderman Cornell? You're good?
I'm good.
Amended agenda items. Mr. Geaver? You addressing those?
Few hires I would like you to approve.
Item A, 5 was to approve hire of Mike Hargrove at $12 an hour as a labor in the Public Works Street Department. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Mike Hargrove at $12 an hour as a laborer in the Public Works Street Department.
Second.
Second, or motion made by Alderman Cornell. Who was the second?
Me.
Fred?
Yeah.
Alderman Flake?
Can I ask a question? Are these 3 positions full-time?
Yes, sir.
I'm still confused as to how we hire full-time employees. Did the personnel committee meet?
No, there had been concern expressed at the last meeting about hiring people and having them start prior to the full board making that approval.
Right.
So this time, and actually we only had this ready yesterday, Brandy provided a little summary and we brought those directly for approval before we would make them an offer. So this will be our practice moving forward.
So the personnel committee hasn't seen a bio on these people?
No.
Because last time we hired somebody, I got a phone call, and somebody emailed me a bio on the person saying, this is, I might even got a phone call, this is what it is. But on these hires, I guess I'm approving to hire somebody I don't know anything about.
Well, I guess we're struggling to try to figure out what it is that the board wants and how you want to handle it. Because one of the comments last hire was that there was an uncomfort level with hiring someone and having an offer made before the board had voted on it.
Right.
So this was our effort to try to remedy that situation.
Right.
And clearly this isn't working either.
Well,
So I guess we need to know how you all
I mean, I don't know,
want.
I raised this before among the board, I don't know how everybody else feels, but to me, I think you addressed the first thing is giving offer letters prior to approval, that's addressed. But to me, is the board comfortable in just taking this and hiring the person? Does the board want to be more involved in at least seeing a bio or meeting with the department heads to say?
I think that's my question too, and I thought our process, or the process we have in place was that we put a lot of faith in our department heads,
Yeah.
making recommendations, but that's also why we have the personnel committee to kind of do the scrutiny of, is this somebody that's going to fit our mold and so forth. I mean, if the whole board wants to be involved in the interview process, I don't have that much time.
Well, I'm not suggesting, but you wouldn't have to be, the whole board would be, you wouldn't, but I mean, my point is we kind of bypass the personnel committee, and I mean, does the board have an issue with that? Or are they comfortable with that? I mean, I'm just one person.
I mean,
I was on the personnel committee last year, and quite honestly, my practice hasn't changed now that I'm not on the committee. When I see a proposal to hire someone, I'll either make phone calls, if I have a question about it, I'll either make phone calls to Brandy, stop over, take a look at the applications. All it takes is a couple minutes. A lot of times I'll do it before the board meeting. Because I have had questions or concerns or knowledge of some of those people. So I think that Brandy does a very good job. She's not, I think the staff does a very good job, not just Brandy. I don't think that they are above scrutiny, but I think it's up to each individual board member to express that.
Of how much you want to be involved.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I mean, you can stop at lunch, you can see, I didn't even know these jobs were, how did you know the job was posted?
Amended. Did I get it was either when I came over this evening.
It went out yesterday.
Oh, no, but so you didn't know that the job was even out there until you'd seen the meeting, so you had time to come here before the meeting and look at this stuff.
Correct. I called Brandy on this one. But yeah, I don't know ahead of time that the jobs are posted or that they're open. Even as a member of the personnel committee, I wasn't made aware that they had openings or were
Well,
hiring.
When people leave or people are terminated, I mean, you know we're going to fill that position.
I don't always know when people leave.
I've known for
Pardon me?
a month or more that these 3 jobs were open.
Yeah, I mean, I see them sometimes in the record.
I see them in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So do you want to be more involved is what you're saying, or?
Well, I guess I'm asking.
I'm at a point where I don't know why I'm on the personnel committee at all. Because if this is how it's gonna work, it just might as well all come up at one time. I'm still in the dark like I was before I was not on the committee.
Nothing's changed.
No.
Well, who's the chair of the committee?
I am.
Chairman, that's right. I mean, do you want to be involved?
I thought being on the committee, I would at least be a little bit more involved than what it was before.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like Alderman Cornell's more informed what's going on than I am.
Because I take the time to do it. I mean, that, they aren't calling me and asking me.
Well,
I see it. Huh?
So
We're not all in that position.
So what you're telling me, I need to call in every day and ask what's going on?
When, I believe that it was when I saw this in the amended agenda, I called Randy and asked about it, just like I do every other time.
And this came out today, this afternoon, so.
No, I think it was yesterday.
posted yesterday at 5 o'clock.
The
Yes.
agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, but I've done that since I
I've
came
been
on the
busy
board.
since then, too.
Well, and so,
Terry, can we involve the personnel committee more, phone calls?
Less than 20.
Well, Fred, you're on the personnel
Whatever you
committee,
all
right?
desire to have
So why
done.
are you whining, Fred, if you're not on the personnel committee?
What?
Why are you complaining? I mean, I'm not second guessing their decisions. I think I want to have a little bit more knowledge as to what's going on. Is that unreasonable?
Evidently.
Not unreasonable.
no.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, we'll make sure we include the personnel committee on any new hires to let them scrutinize the applications or whatever they want to do.
So we want to go back to, we'll do the interviews, we'll make the phone calls to the personnel committee, give them the information,
Is that what
and then
you said
if
you
they
want to set in on the
approve, then
interviews?
bring it to the board.
Are you all gonna make the hires then as a personnel committee?
No,
well, I also had a question about that.
I think as a personnel committee, or at least be able to review the applicants, or at least be part of it, informed, or else I don't know why we have a
Or a
personnel
list,
committee.
you just want a list of the applicants that we're
Well,
interviewing, or what are you saying?
I think I'd like to be a little bit more part of it where I what's our choices? I don't want to micromanage it, no.
Okay.
And that, but I'd like to be a little bit more part of it.
Okay.
I will think one of the things that you will run into though is, I come over here either before a meeting or of an afternoon or evening after I get off work is because they don't allow for the applications, the resumes to leave site. So you're gonna have to come here to see it. And that's just fair warning, that's one of the first things hey, can you email me the list of people and their qualifications? And so you're gonna have to make yourself.
Why can't that be emailed to you?
I believe that's.
Well, we can email the list and the qualifications, but we don't let the actual documents leave the building.
No, I understand that. You scan it in.
The applications have like criminal background, it's a lot of personal information.
No, we
that-
would not violate that, I agree.
Federal privacy law, I'm not sure. The concern would be, we create a electronic document and then
Yeah, that's a good point.
that gets out.
I don't know, it just feels funny that I'm voting on people, I didn't even know there were openings, I didn't know whether 10 candidates, were there 20 candidates, was this guy the best qualified because he had years of service, or...
I guess I'd like to know your thinking behind a certain candidate.
Could we do it?
As a person.
Could we do it like you do on the bids? So if, once the management team sits down, decides this is the applicant, that something could be sent out to the board saying, our recommendation for this position is we hire so-and-so because, it's kind of what you do on the bids, right?
Well, I thought that's what we were trying to do with what we gave you this time, and maybe we just need to give more
What's in there?
detail.
The 10, is it 10A?
10A.
Yes.
10A
So
has-
maybe we need to just
It's there.
make this much more detailed information and send it out to the personnel committee ahead of time.
10A, it doesn't talk about how many applicants there were, but it talks about all of their experience.
And we could add that.
What do you got, 10A?
10A.
Yes.
What's the matter, how many people applied?
So we're trying to get to what it is that you really want to see, to make this thing evolve to be what it is you're looking for.
Okay, I have to admit, I missed 10A, which basically does, it would have been nice if this would have been,
10A came in, added in yesterday.
yeah, it would have been nice if 10A could have came out in a separate email, so you would, since it's hiring
We can do
personnel,
that.
so you would see it, because, I missed it in going through stuff.
Well, and what we can do, Alderman Ock, is do this type of summary, send it to the personnel committee as a separate
Yes,
document from the board packet information, and then send this to all the board in the packet.
that would make me feel good.
Okay,
That's
we can do,
all
that
about-
is not
That would
difficult.
give you a warm feeling.
Give me a warm, because if this would have came ahead, so it would have been highlighted, especially since it involves, personnel and hiring people, and that's what the public sees.
Alderman Clark, are you fine with that?
I can work with that.
Okay. All right. On the table, I've got a motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Flake, to approve to hire Mike Hargrove at $12 an hour as a laborer in the Public Works Department. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. On item, what is that, A2? Approval to hire Timothy Quinn at $12 an hour as a meter reader in the Public Works Department.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Timothy Quinn at $12 an hour as a meter reader in the Public Works Department.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer, to approve to hire Timothy Quinn at $12 an hour as a meter reader in the Public Works Department. Roll call, please.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell,
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. Item A3, approve to hire Aaron LaChance at $12 an hour as a laborer at the wastewater treatment plant.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Aaron LaChance, a $12 an hour employee as a laborer at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Flake, to approve to hire Aaron LaChance at $12 an hour as a laborer at the wastewater treatment plant. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent.
Can I ask a question of?
You may.
On the last hire, it said he had a CDL permit, but it expired. Is a condition of his employment that he get that back?
Yes. Everybody has to have a CDL.
Is there a time frame when he has to have it?
I'd have to look in the policy to see if there is.
Okay.
It's 6 months, Alderman Ock.
It's 6
They
months?
have to be qualified within 6 months with their CDL.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think this, if this kind of stuff went to the personnel committee ahead of time, that would give me a chance to respond back in email
Okay,
to
we
say,
can do that.
ask any questions. So I think we're close. I won't bring it up again, I promise.
That's okay, we're just trying to get to the right place.
Starting through it. That's right. Item 11, Terry, Director of Operations and Finance Officer.
My first item for you this evening is the bid tabs for the auto repair and service bid. We had 2 local bidders. Bids came in very close, so it was difficult to try to figure out which was truly the low bid. We looked at the bills for this current fiscal year that we're in today, at those items that were the most prevalent that were billed, as well as the total for parts, to try to figure out which was actually the low bidder. When you make that comparison, Warrenton Tire and Muffler actually comes in a little bit lower than Gas Store, primarily because of the difference in the markup on parts. Everything else, if you look at the difference in oil changes, filters and lubes, that's pretty much offset by the towing. So it's really the difference in parts markups that
It also looks like Warrenton Tire and Muffler's kind of giving away the towing.
they have their own tow
I mean,
trucks,
that's
so
right.
they don't have to pay
So
for gas
there's no
storage.
charge locally on
Exactly.
towing. Okay.
Gas storage has to pay Warrenton Tire and Muffler
I
to do the
understand.
towing, so it would be hard for them to give that away, I think.
How long have we been with Warrenton Tire Muffler?
Well, it's been several years. We did go with a different bidder one time because they were the low bidder, but we only stayed with them for about 6 months. And then we had to switch back to Warrenton Tire because we had some major complications with that other vendor.
So the whole community with all the repair shops we have, there's a ton of them, we just get 2 bids?
Yes.
That's all we got.
And it goes out to all the locals. We have had several years that we've not had but one bidder.
I questioned that also. I thought every auto repair shop in town would bid that, but they
Are the
don't.
bids mailed directly to them or just posted in the paper?
No, they're faxed, or they're not mailed, but they're typically faxed to their
directly.
contact information on our vendor list. $60 for a labor rate is a very reasonable rate, so it may be that they have difficulty giving that rate in their
They
particular
don't bid the
business.
business. I think Warrenton Tire doesn't bid the county's work. I don't think Mays bids any of them, so.
Hard to beat it. You need a motion to accept that bid?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to accept the low bid of Warrenton Tire and Muffler for auto repair and service.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to accept the auto repair and service bid from Warrenton Tire. Roll call, please.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with 1 absent.
My next item for you this evening, I don't have anything under operational updates, but my next item is a situation we ran into with the cleaning company. If you'll remember, a couple of meetings ago, you approved the bid tabs for cleaning, and we had ABM Janitorial Services who came in significantly lower than any of the other bidders. They received the services contract, sent back some requests for changes to that contract, some of which our city attorney approved and others that removed their liability responsibility, he denied those changes. And then there was a call from the current cleaning contractor who said she had been contacted with a request to see if she was interested in being a subcontractor for this company. That raised our red flags a little bit because there's a clause in our services contract that specifically prohibits subcontracting without your approval. It's clear they read the contract because they sent back changes. Brandy contacted the representative from that company and asked the question about subcontracting. Their response is that they utilize subcontractors in some of the remote areas. The subcontractor that's proposed on this project is Hatfield Cleaning. And they offer to look at someone else as a subcontractor if that's what we're interested in. We cannot continue with this contract without your approval for the subcontractor.
I've got a real problem with this. I've got a real problem with the fact that we send out the bid specs, they agree to a contract, then they want to, they receive the contract, they want to change the contract, they ignore a portion of the contract, they wasted our time and changed our plans, changed our financial outlook, by a few $1,000s, but it's still a few $1,000s. I have absolutely no interest in doing business with ABM Janitorial Services. You only get one chance to make a first impression. That's not a good one.
Well, I guess the question I have, and I bid out janitorial services a number of times. Don't almost all these people subcontract out? Because they don't, I mean, most of the places you call up, they don't really, they're franchises, and so part of it's being by a subcontractor. Is that not true?
We've not experienced that in the
Really?
past, but we've utilized mostly more local contractors.
Okay.
So if you're dealing with someone out of St. Louis, my guess is that that is a more prevalent situation.
Yeah, because I think Jana King really is a franchise operation, so they're going to have subcontractors doing the work for them. At least that was the experience with the bid I know I got. So you're not really getting a quote-unquote mom and pop operation out of some of these places like you normally think you would on a smaller.
As I said, we've never experienced the subcontracting situation before, but I do think that's because we've used more local type contractors for the last few years.
We didn't get any local bids?
The one out of Wentzville is a local company, as is Crystalline Cleaning, which is the company we've been using for a number of years. I'm not certain about that Clark's from the Heart. I don't really have any information on them.
Is the problem with ABM the fact they're a St. Louis organization and the travel time, they don't want to send crews out this far? Is that the issue, or?
That would be my guess, is that if you tried to transport someone out here from that distance, I think you would lose, your profit margin. So my guess is that's why they are subcontracting. We tried to find something on this Hatfield company and looked on the internet, used all the resources that we had to us and couldn't find anything, because if they're subcontracting out here, you would think they would be more, maybe not local out here, but Wentzville, Troy, area. We couldn't find anything on it.
What did ABM say about them?
We did not go back to ABM and ask for that contact information, because I wasn't sure whether you all would entertain that or not. We certainly can.
Well, and my concern is that ABM Janitorial was able to undercut the bid of the others, because the others are not using, maybe Crystalline could have done it for $14,000 if they were allowed to use, they bid it for the bid specs or intend to do it for the bid specs. So I don't think that I think it throws a skew in the entire bid process when one of them isn't bidding like services.
Would Crystalline be willing to, if they're one, the other company's trying to subcontract, would they be willing to do for what they were going to do it for the ABM?
I'm certain they would not do it for $15,000, which is what the ABM.
Well, if they're subcontracting it, they're not going to be getting paid.
She said they've been approached.
They were approached. She said absolutely not. She would have no part of that.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is Crystalline didn't have the low bid. Even if you throw out the bid of ABM, they went the low bid. Jana King is slightly lower, and whatever it is, Citywide, or I can't read it. Citywide is the next lowest. So if you're gonna throw them out, then I think you can't jump to the current provider. I think you have to go with one of the other ones.
You're saying you got to take the next low bid?
That would be the logical thing to me, because otherwise it's not fair to the ones who bid the same. If they all bid the same, I'm not sure.
I would be concerned to make sure we don't have the same problem with Jana King there, that they're not going to sub out also.
The only thing we can do is provide them with the contract for signature, if that's what you all decide, and verify with them that that's the situation.
Yeah, I don't think you can assume that they're going to subcontract, but my guess is you're right.
So what am I hearing from the board, that we're gonna not go with the low bid and offer this to the next person?
Well,
I have no problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that. Is Crystalline agreeable to continue on with cleaning right now without a contract?
We asked them to clean this week, and they can clean today and tomorrow. So we'll need to move quickly with this other company, and I can't speak for next week because we didn't ask. We just needed to get to tonight to see what your decision was.
So we need to, what do we need to do? We need to terminate the contract with the Original,
I wasn't signed up.
We never,
I would ask that you guys vote not to approve, because the way the contract's set up, we have a general vendor contract that has these provisions in it. You guys vote not to approve the subcontracting of it. We can respond back to Jana King, or respond back to ABM, and then I would ask that you guys vote to accept whatever bid and approve the mayor to sign the contract so we can try to move forward.
second little bit, okay.
Vote not to approve, make a motion not to approve the subcontracting by ABM.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer, not to approve the subcontracting provisions from ABM Janitorial Service, St. Louis, Missouri. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes. We have computer
Alderman
issues.
Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
We're watching
One
two
absent.
down there.
We got computer trouble down there.
Yeah.
And a gawker.
So now we need a motion to approve, the second low bid was Jana King out of St. Louis for cleaning services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve Jana King from, out of St. Louis, Missouri, in the amount of $22,213.18. Roll call.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0, one absent. Anything else, Terry?
that's all I have there, thank you.
Dottie Phillips, Recreation Director.
Good evening. The first thing I have is the monthly report. It is attachment 12A. So unless you have any questions, the report is there.
We're gonna be playing softball, t-ball, baseball into October, I think.
Right now, youth leagues are scheduled through the end of July,
No, but it won't stop raining.
and adult leagues are through mid-August.
Alderman Cornell, typically, the board president is responsible for the weather and has been for many years.
I understand that. I understand
That's
that.
always done a good job.
I understand that. We may want to reconsider.
Good luck with that.
The 25 soccer registrations, is that low, high, or doesn't really matter at this juncture?
No, it's fine. We had just really begun taking registrations. It's probably doubled this week. I don't know that for sure, but we've been taking a lot.
And when do registrations?
Not till July 24th.
Oh, they're over July 24th? Mm-hmm. Yes, I better get a move on.
Yes, you better.
Do you see any indications at all that the farmer's market's going to improve, or what do you think's going to happen in that situation?
I'm trying to stay optimistic about it, but I do have the statistics through the first 4 weeks. The first week we had two vendors, the second week we had one, the third week we had 3, and then this past week we had 1. We do have 6 registered. The problem is I think that they're a little bit behind on, getting their crops in. I think the next 2 weeks will kind of determine what's going to happen. We did, we've got 10 different yard signs that are out. We've got banners, ads in the newspaper. We're listed in the Missouri Farmers Market Directory. We did like 15 different press releases. I actually found an article today in the Crossroads magazine that's, I don't know, a community news thing. I think more out of St. Charles County. But we did go into those counties trying to get, some people to come out. So I think that we're spending a lot of time and resources on a program that I'm not sure is really
the business that we want to be in too.
Well, we're going to give it a couple more weeks, is that our plan, and see if we get more attendance
Sure, we can
And,
report back and,
see what happens. I mean, when I came by last Saturday, I was really disappointed to see one vendor there, and we're paying a staff member to be there and supervise and unlock restrooms and so forth, and there's nothing going on, so. And I don't have the answer for you as to what you'd have to do to get them to be there.
I've talked to several people who are big farmers market people, and they were loyal to the fairground, and they tell me they're all creatures of habit, so when it moved to the right city, they're just used to dealing with the same vendors at the same place at the same time, and to get them to change it's just not in the nature of a lot of these people. So that's not a good thing to say, but I guess you have to get the vendor there first, but then you have to get people there who get in a habit, and it's going to be a part of it's changing the habit.
right. And I did discuss with a couple of the ladies who have been there off and on through the weeks to make sure that the change in the format of it, allowing the flea market vendors, wasn't creating issues for them, and they said no, they didn't have a problem with it. They actually thought it was a good attempt at getting more foot traffic. So I don't think any of the changes that we have made has affected it negatively. I just am not sure there's really room for another farmer's market in this area.
We might want to take a year off, or even encourage some other group to maybe pick that up. Maybe some of the school organizations or at 4-H or something like that. Maybe they might want to look at that and see what happens down the road. But let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Okay? What else? Any other questions for Dottie on that report? What about the parks proclamation?
Does that mean you get your picture in the paper again?
Pardon me?
Does that mean you get your picture in the paper again?
I don't know. We haven't got that for you. I've talked to Chris about that.
Oh,
I got a contest going on that.
so what are we supposed to do on this?
You need approval of the proclamation? Is that what you're asking for, Dottie?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
I think we're asking, for you all to
authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation declaring July as Park and Recreation Month. Second.
Motion by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Clark to authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried 5-0 with one absent. Dottie, you going to talk to us about the benefits of Park and Recreation?
Yes.
Go ahead. That's not on our iPad, is it? It's on the
Nope,
big.
it's in front of you. It's on the big screen. It's on the other one.
John's happy now.
I can sit in that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for allowing me a little bit of time on the agenda tonight. July is Parks and Recreation Month, so in our field, we usually try to take this month to do something to try to make people better understand what Parks and Recreation is all about. Most people think that recreation is for kids, or that it's all about sports or playing games or something very simple like that, but it's actually much more than that. It's basically, fundamentally, it's about the quality of life for people, for the community, and our society as a whole. Parks are often considered amenities, and I would like to start changing our thought process in the city of Warrenton, that parks are not amenities. They are, in fact, necessities, the same as all the other services that we provide to citizens. Some of the key benefits of Parks and Recreation are listed here. The four things that I was going to focus on today is public health, economic benefits, environmental benefits, and then social benefits. We all know that any sort of physical activity results in better health. Parks and Recreation brings meaning, purpose, and pleasure to people's lives. It actually contributes both years in one's life as well as life in those years. We play a huge part in the quality of life and what people are doing within our communities. The CDC has showed that creation of or enhanced access to places for physical activity leads to a 25.6% increase in the percentage of people exercising on 3 or more days per week. So we know that if they have the places to recreate or be physically active, they will do it. What a lot of people don't think about, though, is the mental health that Parks and Recreation affects and how it affects it. The Journal of Preventative Medicine studies showed that access to natural settings provides a feeling of peacefulness, tranquility, and relaxation, and it does decrease fear and anger. Also, there was analysis by a team from the CDC that reported that inactivity was associated with more than 9 million cases of cardiovascular disease in 2001. And that's a direct medical cost of $24 billion. So basically, as a Parks and Recreation professional, what I am trying to make people understand is that providing physical activity for individuals is what we may do on a one-to-one basis, but as a society as a whole, it can have a really huge impact on our nation as a whole. Just wanted to comment too that here in Warrenton, I think that we're very, very fortunate to have Binkley Woods and the trails out there. I actually was out there today, and there were this is obviously a great day to be outside, and there were numerous people out there. We've really done a great job of creating a very natural environment for them to get that exercise in and kind of get a break from everyday life. Another benefit are the social benefits, and this is probably one of the most important benefits, yet it's the hardest to quantify. We know that, first of all, quality of life for people encompasses a number of factors, but in addition to enhancing the quality of life, recreation also contributes to the well-being of the community as a whole. When studying adolescent drug users and non-users, it has been found and proven that non-users spent more time with family and participating in extracurricular activities than what the drug users did. We also know that in most communities, Parks and Recreation departments are the key for providing family activities, family fun. Throughout the area this week, there will be lots of Parks and Recreation departments who are hosting special events to celebrate Independence Day. Most of those events are free to get into. Obviously, there are costs associated with the things you do inside, but that's a good example of how Parks and Recreation departments are allowing families to go and do things together right here close to home. We actually know that we have some issues with adolescents in our parks, but I would want to challenge all of us to think of that in a different manner. And a good example is issues that we have out at the swimming pool. Those kids, those adolescent kids, they really, obviously they can swim. I don't want to say they don't really have anything to do, but when they leave the pool and they want to go out into the parking lot or whatever, have we created a place for them? We have a playground and we have a pavilion, but is there any place that's kind of designated for them? And if we created something like that and said, okay, here's your spot, you can have your fun over here, is that going to have any impact on the problems that we have out there? Maybe, maybe not, but I think as a community we have to look at the possibilities of also creating recreation opportunities for those kids. There's been a pretty big push in the past 10 years to include toddlers in recreation programming. That's kind of a challenge because, first of all, what really you do a lot of their recreation and their play at home. It's just part of kids growing up. But I think the key to having toddlers participate is making it a family activity. So you create the Mommy and Me stroller aerobics classes, things like that. We aren't currently doing anything like that out here simply because we don't have the resources as far as a location to do those sort of things. But that is something that once we progress, we should be able to do some things like that. One of the biggest things that has kind of been happening in the last 5 or 6 years, and that we're going to see for the next, for a long time, is the push to provide lots of senior citizen activities. Senior citizen activities are really important as far as social benefits, because sometimes as people start to get older, they start to be removed from the community. They have less access to get places, and they're pretty choosy about where they want to go and what they want to be exposed to, and their families are busy. So we need to be able to provide recreational opportunities for them as well. We also know that we can help them maintain and even sometimes improve their quality of life. Just simple fitness programs, mind exercises, things like that can help them stay in their homes and independent longer. And then the last thing I would note, probably on the social benefits, is community pride. One, I think, really good example of that is, a little guy came into the office today with his mom to register for him for soccer, and he had on his Wentzville baseball hat. And I started talking to him, and the first question I asked him was, well, what team do you play for? Actually, they were there to pick up pictures, so I needed to know what team he played for so I could get the right packet. And he said, Warrenton. And so he identifies his experience in baseball with Warrenton. So, there's some community pride there, but also when we have family events, an example would be the concerts that they have in the parks. That's a great opportunity for us to kind of showcase our park, bring people from our community, but also outside of our community, and show them what a nice community that we live in. The next one is environmental benefits. Just as healthy families and healthy communities are important to our overall well-being, so too is the health of our environment that we live in. Providing, preserving, and protecting parks and open space enhances the desirability of an area, as well as contributing to the safety and health of its inhabitants. We were talking earlier about sewer or stormwater, whichever it was, I still don't know. But we were talking earlier possibly about stormwater issues. It's very common for stormwater projects and parks to go hand in hand. I think I have listed here, I do. A lot of times, ball fields, open spaces, trails, things like that are that's a natural project to put in that area because it will absorb the water and things like that. So very common to match those two type of projects together. One of the things that I have found really interesting, and when I was out at Binkley Woods today, I was thinking, I wonder how many trees we have here, and can I help Brad out and put dollar amounts on that based on this first little point that I have, which is that over a 50-year lifetime, the tree generates $31,000 worth of oxygen and all of that. So I was out there trying to look and count trees, and then I realized that Brad probably has some sort of a tree inventory. I really didn't need to count them. But anyway, so those are all the kind of things I think that we need to recognize that Parks and Recreation is a part of that. It's a much bigger picture sometimes, I think, than what we see. I think we're sometimes short-sighted in looking at Parks and Recreation. Of course, it's important also to recognize that Parks and Recreation has an economic impact in addition to those other benefits that we've listed. I think one of the biggest economic benefits that people don't realize, and I actually found most of this information when I was doing some research for a project at my last job, but the value that can be added to personal property based on its location are its proximity to a park. And then all of the statistics they have where people are saying that they would pay more, up to 10% more to live in a house that was in close proximity to a park. So increased property values obviously is a big one, and I think that, I don't know, but I would imagine that if we wanted to research that within our own community, we probably could look at some of the houses that are across from Binkley Woods and what happened as that developed and became a park out there and what have you. I'm sure that we could probably find that. But I think this is a pretty good picture economically, just speaking on property values as to what happens when parks are placed there. The other thing is the economic impact on commercial property values. The first thing I have here is Bryant Park in New York, and I realize, we're talking about a huge city and whatever, but I just thought this one was really interesting as I was looking at it. Bryant Park became known as Needle Park because they had such a bad heroin problem there, and the city decided that they needed to take back that park and start doing some revitalization and getting some control over what was happening. At the time that they did this, the commercial property value was $3.42 a square foot. When they invested $52 million in it to revitalize it, again, remember, I know we're talking about New York compared to our community, but they invested $52 million, and within a 3-year time frame, the property value increased to $152 a square foot. So the fact that it was a park, yes, is part of it, but also just rehabilitating that area and taking control of that area. One of the reasons that they did it in the way that they did, based on the information I read, was because they were able to get so many grants. They had considered taking it completely out of the park system and making it something else, but chose not to do that because of the grants and things that were available, because people on a national level, I think, recognize the value of having parks available. The next thing I have is, I wanted to include this on there because I think that it's important to try to view the investment that we put into Parks and Recreation as the seed money that leverages a substantial economic gain for the community, not necessarily for the city, but for the community. So I'm not going to go over all of that, but basically it shows the cycle of how the investment that we make eventually turns into a gain for our residents because they have jobs, and the commercial businesses because they have people coming in when we have events or things like that. So having said that, one of the things I said it very early was I would like for us to kind of have a new perspective on our Parks and Recreation department. Frequently, I think that, and this is like this everywhere, when we go to conferences for Parks and Recreation, we sit around, the tables, I'll say eating dinner, and talk about how horrible, it is because we're not considered as important as the rest of the departments. And, after a while it kind of gets old, and you start to realize, I can sit and listen to this and listen to it, but if I don't start trying to tell people the truth and show people what it really is about, nothing's ever going to change. So an example I wanted to give you, and it kind of goes with that last slide, is I found some reports on hosting a national softball tournament through ASA. And the city that was involved in this reported the operation of hosting this event as a net loss of $38,347. So they gave the city their financial report. But then the Convention and Visitors Bureau, they came in and they gave their report that the consequences were an economic gain to the community of $3.7 million. So the difference in those two things is how we're choosing to look at it. Are we looking at it as the investment that we made of $37,000 and that's it. So we've lost the $37,000, or are we looking at it at the $37 million that was gained by the businesses and the people in our community? So I think that for us, obviously on a much smaller scale, we have to start trying to look at Parks and Recreation as a valued service that we provide to the community at a cost that is probably not as great as what the cost of a lot of other services are, but probably has a greater impact on the community as a whole as far as economic gain than most of the other services that we provide. So I hope that you will join me in trying to educate other people in the community on what Parks and Recreation really is all about and what the value of Parks and Recreation is. I could go on and on and on about this subject, but Terry would only give me so much time, and now that we've been here for as long as we have, I'm sure you all appreciate that. So I have resources that you can, I put a couple websites here, but I also have a closet full of research downstairs. So if anybody ever has any questions or information they're looking for, I'd be happy to help you get it. And unless you guys have questions or comments, that's really all that I have.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. Appreciate it. I'm ready for Gabrielle Curry, Finance Manager.
Good evening. The first item I have is the accounts payable claims report. The document that you have in Dropbox is the revised report. The first page shows the invoices that were entered after the Friday claims report. It has the name of the vendor and the total amount for each vendor. And then behind that page is the complete claims report with the detailed summary, or the detail behind it that supports the $319,310.80. That is the amount that I am requesting approval to pay.
Any questions for Gabrielle?
I think we need to thank Gabrielle for making this change. We talked about scrambling around before meetings when at the last second we had invoices and finding a better way so the alderman could pick up those new invoices quickly. And I think this accomplishes that, so thank you for that effort.
Great, thank you.
Is this her total here? Is that what she's asking for?
Sure. My iPad's broke.
Gabrielle, you need a motion?
$319,000.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve paying the bills for $319,310.
Second. We have a motion by Alderman Ock, second by Alderman Clark to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $319,310.80. Do I have the right second, or is that you, Fred?
It was me, but that's all right.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 with one absent.
Okay, and then my last item is the monthly report for May. You guys had any questions on that?
It looks like the biggest variance we have really is the industrial sewer bill is $185,000 over budget, which I'm sure the vendor's not happy about. It looks like it also grew this month. So have they come closer to fixing their issue, or is we're going to see that variance continue to grow? Do you have any feel for that?
I know that Guy has been working with the people out of the Cove plant.
Yeah.
They are somewhat having a difficult time internally in their plant figuring out what the water use is going to.
Okay.
But I know he and Rusty have been out there trying to assist them with figuring out what the situation is. But
So more likely than we look at the June report, we'll see the variance grow larger, I suspect.
That would be, yes, until they determine what it is that's causing the high usage, we expect that it will continue.
Okay. Another thing, this goes back to the sewer issue that the people hear about. You know, we've got, you know, the fixing of the infiltration is really a sewer and water department issue. And we've got an unusual year in the sense that you got a positive revenue from the one of 185,000. Expenses in the water department are 63,000 under budget, the sewer is 26,000. And I realize that rolled over in the projected budget, but I wonder if we can, prior to Fred's meeting with talking about this issue, if we can think about maybe using some of the surplus or some of the capital money we set aside for this year to get a contractor to come into the area and do it through that approach, because then we can really focus on their issue. Because, you know, I know it's got to be frustrating to leave meetings when you got issues in your basement, the city's not going to reimburse you for it and all those things. And if we have capital surplus, and I don't remember what the budget items were for the surplus, but if this is being generated this year, and we can bring a contractor in who could really focus on that area for infiltration, because I'm sure Guy has more than enough stuff to do around the city, and that would become a project that would tend to, you know, fall to the wayside sometimes.
We have money in the water and sewer budget for I&I.
Right.
As a capital item that we've put in there now for the last couple of years.
Right.
So I think we could do that. I think, if I understand correctly, what we first need to do is identify where those major I&I lines are. We have a pretty good idea because I believe it was 2009, we had a sewer study done for the Water Street lift station, which all that flows to. So I think we have a pretty good idea which are the worst lines, and it shouldn't take a extended length of time to get those particular lines cameraed, so we can confirm that. But I think the first step is, let's identify where the worst line is, get the contractor to start on that, and in the meantime, we can be identifying other areas that we could do that. But the money is certainly in the budget.
Yeah, because I think when we run into these situations, we have a, you know, I mean, fairness to them, you know, you can say, well, they should never bought the bottom of the hill, buyer beware. But on the other hand, it's not reasonable to think that a person should have to tolerate infiltration and sewer issues in your basement. And these people clearly can't afford to be replacing, you know, sofas and clothing and all that stuff. And it's, I mean, it's a nasty issue. And, you know, maybe we should just try to use the financial resources to really do a more concentrated effort. I agree with Fred, we can't spend $2 million and fix everything east of Highway 47, but we certainly could do a good job on the infiltration and speed up the project quite a bit. So if that's something we can look at.
Absolutely. And like I said, and as Guy said, cameraing that area is the plan for this year's budget. So it all fits together well. We just need to get something identified and get it moving.
Yeah, I'd like to get it toward the first part of the budget instead of the last part. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I mean, I'm responsible for 3 buildings of work, and we're constantly battling water event issues because you've had, you know, torrential downpours that are really unusual over probably the last 6 months. We've seen major infiltration issues on our properties just because of the, I mean, you can argue is there climate change or not. Well, I think we can all agree we've been seeing a series of tremendous rainstorms that have, you know, continued to create a problem. And so I think that moves us up into the priority list quite a bit.
Okay. Anything else for Gabrielle? Anything else, Gabrielle?
No, that's all I
Thank
have.
you.
Thank you.
I'm ready to move to Greg Honeyshaw, Chief of Police.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Just wanted to bring you all up to date on a couple of problems that we've had at the city parks and with city property in general. Dottie kind of alluded to it in her presentation. One of the biggest things that we've had is an overabundance of damaged property in the parks, somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 range at this point. Another problem that we've had is bullying issues, specifically at the city pool. So, to deal with those issues, we are going to, as a police department, increase our patrols in the parks. That's uniform patrols. And also do field interview reports on all the juveniles that we come into contact with. Field interview report is just a very short card, if you will, that tells us the who, what, when, and where. That way, if we do have problems on the back end of that, we know who was there and when they were there. At least it gives us a starting point to try to come up with a bad guy. The other thing that we're doing is using officers in plain clothes to do surveillance and monitoring of the problem areas. These are very random surveillances. We've put officers actually in the pool so that they can monitor what's going on from the pool and also from their police cars as well, so they can monitor what's going on in and around the area. So I think we're pretty close to identifying who most of the bad guys are, but at the same time, we're not going to give up on it until we know for sure that we've got this problem nipped in the bud. One of the other things that kind of came to light through this whole thing, though, was people are not identifying themselves as witnesses. And we have crimes that are going unreported, and I think this is something that I've heard a lot of, and that is, well, I was going to call, but I didn't want to bother the police. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. So what I'm asking everybody, and I actually talked to Mr. Waltz today as well with the paper, is please, if you see something as a citizen, as a visitor to this town, that looks suspicious or appears to be illegal, anything that looks out of the ordinary, call the police department and let us know. That's what we're here for. We enjoy going out and finding out what's going on and making sure that everything is right. So that's really kind of the crux of what we're up to. Without citizens, the law enforcement task is virtually impossible. And if people aren't telling us what's going on, nobody's going to be happy. We're not going to be able to get the job done. Just a couple of success stories throughout this whole thing. Brad had a picnic table that got completely destroyed down at Quarry Park. We were able to successfully identify a couple of juveniles who I still have no idea how they did it, but they spent a considerable amount of time working on a table and literally completely destroyed it.
What was the price on that, Brad?
It's $1,100.
Yeah. Those new ones.
So, yeah, so they've been referred to juvenile. We also had a situation with a city stop sign that got spray painted early one morning, and a fairly observant officer located a kid riding around on a bicycle with paint on his hands, and he's like, I think there's something to that. So we ended up catching him right away as well. So it's working. I just wanted to give you guys an update to let you know what we're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed that it must be summer because there's a lot more graffiti on the walk bridge.
Right.
Because I thought the new walk bridge was graffiti-proof, but they figured out a way to put graffiti on the walk bridge. Before it was the old bridge metal, I'd go with my little can of spray paint and I'd just spray the graffiti off. But this is a different situation.
We had an issue with that bridge for a while too.
Yeah.
With the kids up on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
But that rounded up pretty quick too.
Yep.
So, is that it, Chief?
That is it.
All right, we thank you.
Well, I think the extra personnel being out there on the street, the police, and, people calling in and watching and call the police department and let them know what's going on, and I think that'll help.
Did you ever figure out that
I'm sorry.
when I emailed you a couple weeks ago about that business so-called or thing going on, did you find anything out about that? Or?
Yeah, we identified who that was, and he will not be doing that type of operation any longer.
I figured, the other night I saw him, he had some more. It's been a couple nights ago that he had a couple more he was working on there. But I think he broke his truck down now, because now he's been working on his truck for the last 2 days. So.
We'll keep an eye on him.
Any other questions for the chief?
We're good? Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you, Chief. We're ready to move into bills to ordinances. And the first bill is bill number 31-13.
Motion to approve Bill 3113 for first reading. Second.
Motion by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Clark for the approval of bill, or first reading of bill number 3113.
An ordinance amending Chapter 425 sign regulations of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding the definition and use of banner and temporary signs.
Call for second final reading and passage of bill number 31-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second final reading and passage of bill number 3113.
An ordinance amending Chapter 425 sign regulations of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding the definitions and use of banner and temporary signs.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0, one absent. Bill number 32-13.
Call for the first reading of bill number 32-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for first reading of bill number 32-13.
An ordinance amending section 700.120 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, establishing rates for the sewer service within and outside the corporate limits of the city of Warrenton.
Call for second final reading and passage of bill number 32-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second final reading and passage of bill number 32-13.
An ordinance amending section 700.120 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, establishing rates for sewer service within and outside the corporate limits of the city of Warrenton.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0, one absent. Bill number 33-13.
Call for the first reading of bill number 33-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Cornell for first reading of bill 33-13.
An ordinance amending section 705.210 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, establishing rates for the use and consumption of water within and outside the corporate limits of the city of Warrenton.
Call for second final reading and passage of bill number 33-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Cornell for second final and passage reading of bill number 33-13.
An ordinance amending section 705.210 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, establishing rates for the use and consumption of water within and outside the corporate limits of the city of Warrenton.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0, one absent. Bill number 34-13.
Could somebody explain the bill? It's so narrowly written. It only affects 24 hours from July 26th to July 27th.
This is in relation to the citywide yard sale, and the moratorium is to allow the placement for the yard sale signs for that one day of the citywide yard sale.
Okay. Call for the first reading of bill number 34-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Cornell for first reading of bill number 34-13.
An ordinance of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, approving a 24-hour moratorium on the enforcement of sign regulations under section 425.0901 of the city's municipal code.
Call for second and final reading and passage of bill number 34-13.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second final and passage reading of bill number 34-13.
An ordinance of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, approving a 24-hour moratorium on the enforcement of sign regulations under section 425.0901 of the city's municipal code.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0, one absent. Motion for adjournment?
One final question. In our other miscellaneous folder, we had the proclamation for Steve Etcher. Is that something we were supposed to act on, or is it just for our information?
For your information to review if you're good with that.
Okay, what was your comment?
For their information to review if they were good with that, because he had already asked for the, I think you'd all said you wanted to do
I
a
just didn't
proclamation.
know, because if we were supposed to act on it, or approving it, or anything. Okay. Motion for adjournment?
Second.
Motion by Alderman Ock, second by Alderman Dreyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. We're adjourned.